Chapter 169, Lu Family Ancestor, the one with great destiny. Reset, Lu Changsheng, for failing to guard his pet beast properly, which bit Lu Miaoyang, a disciple of the Lu family, and for engaging in further strife with him, is fined 300 spirit stones and sent to labor in servitude for 3 years. However, considering that he did not instigate the trouble and that he must continue to manage the family's business and draw talismans, the 3 years of hard labor will be converted to the forfeiture of 3 years' salary. Do you all accept this? Lu Yuanding spoke with an authoritative voice. Family head, I am not satisfied. My parents shed blood for the family, made meritorious contributions, and ultimately sacrificed their lives for the family, yet now you are unfairly siding with Lu Changsheng, favoring an outsider. However, as soon as the sentence was pronounced, Lu Miaoyang immediately shouted out. Lu Miaoyang. Lu Yuanding and the fourth elder in unison coldly shouted. Now that Lu Changsheng was standing right here, Lu Miaoyang had the audacity to yell out such words. Treating Lu Changsheng as an outsider. You should know that Lu Changsheng was not only the son-in-law of the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain but also a high-grade talisman master. I am not satisfied, I cannot accept this. This Lu Changsheng is nothing but a redundant son-in-law of our family. If it had not been for our Lu family taking him in, where would he be today? Now he has beaten me to this state, nearly killed me, and the family actually sides with him, aiding an outsider to bully one of their own. Ancestor, I want to see the ancestor. Wah, if the ancestor knew you were helping an outsider bully your own people. Lu Miaoyang, turning a deaf ear to the scolding, continued to cry out loudly. Lu Miaoyang, Miaoyang. Seeing this situation, several family elders attempted to drag him away. But Lu Miaoyang clung tightly to 2 memorial tablets, making it difficult for the elders to forcibly remove him. Lu Changsheng watched this scene speechless, thinking to himself that the Lu family had quite a temper. Being able to tolerate Lu Miaoyang making such a scene. If someone like that were in his own family, he'd have been slapped away by now. No, I won't go, you are all biased, favoring an outsider and bullying me. Father, mother, why did you leave me all alone? Wah, I want to see the ancestor, let the ancestor judge. Lu Miaoyang continued crying and shouting as he was dragged away. However, just at that moment, suddenly. Scoundrel. An old and resonant voice, like the sound of a great bell, echoed out of nowhere. Immediately after, it was seen that Lu Miaoyang's entire body was sent flying backwards with a crash. The 2 memorial tablets in his hands, however, floated down gently and settled securely amongst the rows of memorial tablets positioned above in the ancestral hall. Ancestor. The ancestor. Greetings to the ancestor. Greetings to the ancestor. Hearing this voice, everyone in the ancestral hall, Lu Yuanding, the fourth elder, and all the present family elders bowed and saluted in unison. The Lu family ancestor. Lu Changsheng, upon hearing this, could not help but feel a sudden shock in his heart. He turned his head to look, and saw an imposing old man, clad in a Qingzhou mountain robe, with white hair and a youthful complexion, walking towards him. He quickly bowed in respect. This was his first time seeing the esteemed Lu family ancestor. Even when he married Lu Miaoyang, only the elders of the Lu family came, and he did not see the ancestor. He never thought that such an incident would bring forth the Lu family ancestor himself. Scoundrel, is the ancestral hall a place for you to cause a ruckus? The Lu family ancestor scolded Lu Miaoyang, who was to the side, speaking directly. Ancestor, at this moment, facing the Lu family ancestor, Lu Miaoyang also became scared and dared not to continue his tantrum. After all, the Lu family ancestor was the sky of the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain. He dared to fuss and throw a tantrum, relying on the affection from the Lu family ancestor and the debts owed to his parents. Now that the ancestor had appeared, he did not dare to make a scene anymore. Yuan Long had such an illustrious life, how could he have a worthless child like you? If not for Yuan Long's sake, I would slap you to death, the Lu family ancestor said, expressing his disappointment. Now take this disgraceful fellow out of here. Just as Yuan Ding proposed, let him reflect on his actions quietly at home, think it over well. If he dares to cause trouble again, he will be harshly punished. The Lu family ancestor declared. Yes, ancestor. Lu Yuanding immediately nodded respectfully. Yes, ancestor. Two of the Lu family elders immediately stepped forward and took Lu Miaoyang out of the ancestral hall. You are called Lu Changsheng, correct? At this point, the Lu family ancestor turned to Lu Changsheng and started speaking. Lu Changsheng greets the ancestor. Lu Changsheng, facing the elder with a head of white hair, unsure of why he was suddenly the focus of attention, hastily bowed and saluted. The Lu family ancestor's face appeared calm, and there was no hint of formidable aura about him. But standing before him gave one an unfathomable impression of depth and solidity. He didn't seem anything like what Yu Ningrong had described, that the Lu family ancestor had at most 10 years left to live. Moreover, in front of this Lu family ancestor, he involuntarily felt as if a needle were at his back. Feeling as if the elder could see right through him. At this moment, Lu Changsheng was uncertain if the jade pendant that the colorful dress lady had given him would be of any use. His own cultivation level, spirit, and everything about him, might be discerned by the ancestor. Especially since the Lu family ancestor before him was a Foundation Establishment great cultivator. Such terror from a Foundation Establishment ancestor. If he notices something amiss, I wonder if I would have time to call for help. Lu Changsheng thought anxiously in his heart. He dared confront and act against Lu Miaoyang within the Lu family because he had gained a certain level of strength and confidence. Feeling that it was unnecessary to continually concede, he thought it was time to show some firmness. But he had not anticipated that his actions would provoke the appearance of the Lu family ancestor. Facing the ancestor, he couldn't help but feel somewhat panicked. After all, his confidence stemmed from the second-rank talismans and second-rank puppets. But the power of a second-rank talisman was only equivalent to a casual strike from a cultivator at the initial stages of Foundation establishment. Chapter 170, Lu Family Ancestor, the Great Destiny Holder. Reset. A second-rank puppet could never stand a chance against a foundation-building great cultivator. As for activating the jade pendant to call for help from the woman in the colorful skirt, but in the presence of such a foundation-building great cultivator, he didn't know whether there would be enough time. The young man is quite good, since he's a son-in-law of our Lu family, he may treat this place as his own home. A faint smile appeared on the withered face of the Lu family ancestor. His dry palm gently reached out and touched Lu Changsheng's head. This gesture left Lu Changsheng slightly stunned. He didn't quite understand what the Lu family ancestor meant. Trying to calm himself, he pursed his lips and nodded, yes, ancestor. The young man has always treated this place as his own home, Lu Changsheng said respectfully. Hee, that's good, the Lu family ancestor chuckled, retracting his somewhat rough hand, and then he left. Seeing off the ancestor. Seeing off the ancestor. Seeing off the ancestor. All those present bowed and respectfully said their farewells. Phew. Watching the Lu family ancestor depart, Lu Changsheng also let out a slight sigh of relief. During these brief moments, a layer of cold sweat had seeped out on his back. What's the situation with the Lu family ancestor, exactly? Did he see through something about me? Lu Changsheng couldn't help wondering in his heart. He really couldn't figure out why the Lu family ancestor would take notice of him. Changsheng, it's all right now. Just then, the fourth elder looked at Lu Changsheng and said with a smile on his face. Then she spoke softly, when the family finds the spirit stone, Grandma will pay for you. It's okay, Grandma, Lu Changsheng, with his emotions in check, gently shook his head. He could feel that the verdict was actually biased in his favor by the family. In his heart, he speculated that it was very likely the fourth elder had informed Lu Yuanding about his promotion to high-grade talisman master. What's owed must be taken, these spirit stones are nothing to Grandma. The fourth elder waved her hand and spoke warmly. Thank you, Grandma. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng didn't insist any further. He understood that it was a kind gesture from her. All right, it's getting late, you've hurried back and been on the move all day. Go home and rest early. If you have any issues, just come and talk to Grandma," the fourth elder, taking Lu Changxing away from the Lu family ancestral hall, said aloud. "Yes, Grandma," Lu Changxing nodded slightly and walked towards his home. His mind was still pondering over the matter of the Lu family ancestor. He wanted to know why the other party looked at him, and whether he had seen something in him. "Forget it, at least for now. The Lu family ancestor bears no malice towards me," Lu Changxing thought secretly. He didn't dwell too much on the matter and quickly made his way home. After all, fretting about it now would only bring more trouble to himself. If a foundation-building great cultivator truly harbored bad intentions towards him, he would really have no way out. He couldn't just curse the Lu family ancestor to death tonight with the Book of Malevolent Curses and Fates, could he? When Lu Changxing arrived home, he immediately saw his wives and concubines waiting for him in the courtyard. "Husband, how did it go?" Lu Miaoyun and the other wives approached with eyes full of concern. "It's been resolved, there's no more trouble," Lu Changxing waved his hand and shared the outcome with Lu Miaoyun. "The fault wasn't ours to begin with, besides, husband is now a high-grade talisman master. Even if it were a matter of clan punishment, the family would consider husband's position," Lu Miaoyun said, holding Lu Changsheng's arm. "You've had a hard day, husband, and congratulations on becoming a high-grade talisman master." "Yes, congratulations on becoming a high-grade talisman master." "Congratulations, husband." "Congratulations, husband, on taking another step on the path of cultivation." The other wives also spoke up to congratulate him. "Very well, let's have a good celebration tonight." Lu Changxing also gave a grand wave and said, "After all, becoming a top-grade talisman master is indeed something worth celebrating." However, when the wives and concubines heard Lu Changsheng's words, they couldn't help but blush slightly. In a secluded courtyard deep within Qingzhou Valley, where spiritual energy converged and birds sung amidst fragrant flowers, the Lu family ancestor was lying back on a recliner, resting with his eyes closed, listening to Lu Yuanding reporting on the Lu family's affairs. Several Lu family elders stood waiting to one side. "As for the Chen family, strike back if you have to, otherwise, everyone will think my days are numbered. We need to establish our authority, it can save a lot of trouble," the Lu family ancestor said lightly. "Yes, ancestor," Lu Yuanding immediately nodded in response. "By the way, tell me more about that Lu Changxing," the Lu family ancestor spoke as if something had just occurred to him. Everyone was somewhat surprised, not expecting the ancestor to ask about Lu Changxing. Lu Yuanding immediately began detailing Lu Changxing's situation, and then asked the fourth elder to add more information. "It seems this child is someone with great fortune and destiny," after hearing everything, the Lu family ancestor said, his eyes opening and closing languidly. He had been in a whimsical mood today, went to the Lu family hall because of the noise, and when he saw Lu Changxing, he found, to his surprise, that he was unable to see through him. This piqued his interest, and he couldn't help but take a few more looks, knowing that the young man had secret chances of fortune by his side. He grew increasingly curious about Lu Changxing. Now, hearing the words from Lu Yuanding and the fourth elder, he was almost certain that Lu Changxing was indeed someone with great destiny. Someone with great destiny. The crowd, hearing this, looked at each other in dismay, utterly astonished. They hadn't expected the Lu family ancestor to give such an evaluation of Lu Changxing. The concept of destiny was extremely profound, but it truly existed in the cultivation world. Some live a life full of disasters and calamities, while others sing their way through life, experiencing one lucky encounter after another. Such people, who experience a continual stream of fortunate encounters, are referred to as individuals with great destiny. Even if such people lack talent, they are favored by destiny and can rise up through fortuitous opportunities. In other words, individuals in the cultivation world who have a name and reputation can all be referred to as someone with great destiny. If this child truly possesses great destiny, he will undoubtedly achieve no small feats in the future, being able to fully integrate into our Lu family. He could become a strong support for us, the Lu family ancestor said slowly. Sighing, he added, but you all must hasten your efforts, as I won't be able to protect you for many more years. If we can't produce a foundation establishment, then it's time to abandon Qingzhou Mountain, split the family early, and each fend for themselves, otherwise, ancestor. Ancestor, you are in the prime of life, how can this be? Yes, ancestor. The crowd hastily spoke out. But in their hearts, they couldn't help but be shrouded with a layer of melancholy. Being here, they were well aware of the Lu family ancestor's condition. Although his injuries had healed, his lifespan was already running short. That night. Afterward, husband, today you asked me, if my husband were to leave, what would Yuner choose? Having married my husband, if you truly wish to leave the Lu family, Yuner will naturally follow you, Lu Miaoyan said, snuggling gently against Lu Changsheng's chest, her eyes full of tenderness, her voice breathy. I was just asking casually, with no intentions of leaving, where could I go if I were to leave? You don't need to worry about that, Lu Changsheng said in a soothing tone, knowing he had unsettled her earlier with his question about leaving the Lu family. In truth, he hadn't expected that by merely mentioning it, Lu Miaoyan would decisively decide to leave the Lu family with him. If it were so easy to sway someone, the Lu family's action of marrying a woman to him would be in vain, merely adding an unnecessary bond. After all, for a cultivation family like the Lu family, the concept of sacrificing for the family's interests and benefits was deeply instilled from a young age, and such a mindset isn't easily changed. Yes, Lu Miaoyan softly acknowledged with a yes, then let out a delicate cry, Husband, your concubine can't go on. But before she could finish speaking, her voice became choppy, no longer forming coherent words. Chapter 171, 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture. _1 Have you guys heard? Lu Miaoyang has been grounded. What happened? Give us the details. It's about him and Lu Changsheng. I heard that Lu Changsheng beat Lu Miaoyang up, and then Lu Miaoyang ran off to make a scene at the ancestral hall. Eventually even the ancestors were provoked. Shoo, even the ancestors got involved. Who would have thought that brother-in-law Changsheng, who usually seems so amiable, would actually beat up Miaoyang? Yeah, I thought he would calm things down and let bygones be bygones. Even a nice guy has his limits, after all, who could tolerate Lu Miaoyang's character? Exactly, I guess Lu Miaoyang must have pushed him too far. Serves him right, it's so satisfying. Speaking of which, Lu Changsheng must have been punished by the family too, right? How was he dealt with? I'm not too sure about that, but I heard he was fined quite a few spirit stones. TSK, he really got caught in the crossfire. The next day, the affair between Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoyang also became the talk of many Lu family disciples within Qingzhou Mountain. After all, the incident had caused quite a stir in the past few days, attracting a lot of attention. Now that the family had made its judgment, the outcome naturally became a topic of gossip and intrigue for everyone to relish. Meanwhile, Qingzhou Valley. Inside a manor. Family head, please take care. Lu Changsheng saw Lu Yuanding out the door and exhaled slightly. Lu Yuanding's visit was primarily to comfort him, worrying that he might feel wronged and hold a grudge over yesterday's judgment. Although the fourth elder had paid all the spirit stone fines on behalf of Lu Changsheng, he was indeed fined. Secondly, the visit was about discussing benefits and compensation. Lu Yuanding was aware of his promotion to a high-grade talisman master through the fourth elder. Since the fourth elder had mentioned it, there was no need for a confirmation assessment as before. So Lu Yuanding came directly to discuss the new benefits with Lu Changsheng. The original 10 spirit stones per month had been increased to 30 spirit stones. The 20 caddies of jade bamboo spirit rice, increased to 50 caddies. Additionally, the monthly talisman making task escalated from being rewarded 10 spirit stones to 30. Any excess completed talismans would still be bought by the Lu family at the original price. However, for the excess talismans, the Lu family switched from rewarding spirit stones to granting family contribution points. Family contribution points could be exchanged for spirit stones. They could also be used to claim elixir medicines and precious treasures from the Lu family's treasure pavilion, with the price being 20 to 30% cheaper than the market rate outside. This too was considered a benefit for the family disciples. As for the upgraded treatment, Lu Changxing didn't feel much impact. It was mainly because his mindset on consumption had shifted. Previously, after killing a wave of robber cultivators, he acquired valuables worth tens of thousands of spirit stones, and easily spent several thousand spirit stones. Now, the idea of a few dozen spirit stones a month just didn't excite him much anymore. Sigh, when I first came to the Lu family, I only had 2 spirit stones a month. Every month I had to carefully calculate my expenditures on spirit rice and vegetables. Now, faced with dozens of spirit stones, I actually feel indifferent. Lu Changxing shook his head and sighed. He remembered the days when he would have split a single spirit stone in 2 to make it last longer. Wealth earned by a stroke of luck is rare after all. A steady income is the true path to follow. After all, where would I get so much windfall from? Lu Changxing subtly adjusted his mentality, reminding himself. After staying in Qingzhou Mountain for 3 days, Lu Changxing bid farewell to his wife and concubines, riding an iron feather eagle back to Nine Dragons Marketplace. In truth, he had wanted to stay in his home for a longer period. But the spiritual talisman shop needed his supervision, and in a couple of days, there would be the periodic inspection of goods. However, he had also mentioned to the 4th elder that he would like Lu Miaoge to take care of the shop temporarily, so he could take some time off at home. The reason was simple. When he had initially gone to 9 Dragon Square, not only was it hard to refuse, but he also thought of selling his talismans at the marketplace and purchasing materials for cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body art, as well as taking in a ferry. But now, he had nearly completed these tasks and could afford to take a break. There was no need to stay in the marketplace all the time. He planned to stay on Qingzhou Mountain for a while, to spend some quality time with his wives and children. Because next year, he was preparing to send Lu Pingan and the other children into the secular world. For now, he considered it as taking a leave. Upon hearing Lu Changsheng's words, the 4th elder readily agreed, stating that in 2 months, he would send Lu Miaoge to take over for Lu Changsheng, so he could spend more time at home with his wives and children. Later, if he found the time, he could alternate with Lu Miaoge in managing the spiritual talisman shop, making it much easier for both of them to handle. 2 days later, an iron feather eagle descended outside 9 Dragons Marketplace. Lu Changxing entered the marketplace and headed towards the spiritual talisman shop. It's him. What a coincidence, to run into him like this. Just then, on the bustling street, a delicate-looking girl in a purple dress caught sight of Lu Changxing, paused for a moment, and then her lips curved up in a smile. She pretended to stroll casually while following closely behind Lu Changxing. After trailing him for a while, the girls saw Lu Changxing walk into a spiritual talisman shop. She looked up at the sign above the shop. Qingzhou Lu's spiritual talisman shop. Then, with a smile, she walked inside. A moment later, the girl emerged from the shop, still smiling. Qingzhou Lu's spiritual talisman shop's owner. Is he a disciple of the Qingzhou Lu family? How could a mere disciple from a foundation establishment family have so many talismans and even a talisman treasure on him? With a frown, the girl inwardly mused. This man must have a big secret, a great opportunity. Otherwise, a disciple from a mere foundation establishment family couldn't possibly have a talisman treasure and so many talismans. Chapter 172, 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture. No wonder he was unmoved when I invited him to explore the ancient cave, the girl murmured in her heart. As long as a little more time passes, the Lockhart goo will recover some of its vitality and can be used on someone again. This man has a talisman treasure by his side, so many talismans, and he even took 2 of my foundation establishment's spirit objects. He has reaped the wealth of the Ko family's 5 fiends and possesses secrets of fortune. He is indeed worthy of a spot for my Lockhart goo. Since that's the case, I'll stay in the marketplace for a while. Once the Lockhart goo has recovered, it'll make him my first target. Once bitten by the Lockhart goo, he will uncontrollably develop feelings of love for me. By then, all these riches and secrets of fortune will be in my pocket. The girl thought to herself, a smile appearing on her face. Her already delicate features became more enchanting and ethereal at that moment, emanating a mystifying and elusive aura. At this time, Lu Changxing was unaware that he had become the target of someone's attention. After returning to the spiritual talisman shop and inquiring about the shop situation with the shopkeeper Zhang Shan in the past few days, he went to the 3rd floor. He checked the storage room and the talisman room to see if he had left any traces while making puppets and drawing second-rank talismans. After all, he planned to go home to spend time with his wives and children in a short period, and leave the shop to Lu Miaoge to manage. Although he was usually careful, he still had to confirm everything to avoid any oversight. After confirming that there were no problems, Lu Changxing felt relieved. He then took out his tools for talisman making and began drawing talismans. 1 month later, inside the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing was drawing talismans. At that moment, a system notification sounded. Congratulations to the host for reaching 50 offspring. You have been awarded 1 designated lottery draw. The reward for 50 children arrived as expected. Lu Changxing wasn't surprised. Designated lottery draw? But the mention of a designated lottery draw made Lu Changxing pause slightly, somewhat surprised. The next moment, however, he understood what the designated lottery draw meant. The lottery will have sections for cultivation techniques, skills, pet beasts, elixir medicines, magical treasures, and others, making up 7 categories. In previous draws, the rewards had been random from any of these categories. But this designated lottery draw allowed one to select a specific category for the lottery. Designated lottery, a draw from a specific category? Lu Changxing's eyebrows twitched. He silently thought, system, I want to draw. Immediately, the familiar lottery wheel appeared. Should I go for a cultivation technique or a magical treasure? Looking at the lottery wheel before him, Lu Changxing pondered. Having drawn so many times, he had gone through each of the 7 categories. He knew that even if he could target one category, it was still a big gamble. If he had to choose, he was inclined towards cultivation techniques and magical treasures. Cultivation techniques were what he currently lacked for his main practice. After all, the returning origin technique had disappointed him for several years. He had always wanted a chi refinement cultivation method. However, there's too much uncertainty in each lottery draw. Even if he targeted cultivation techniques, the system might give him another auxiliary technique like the Immortal Beauty technique. Or another body refining technique like the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art. Or some other cultivation technique. If that happened, he would be at a great loss. In comparison, drawing a magical treasure seemed much more reliable. After all, there was a good chance he could use a magical treasure for practicing the 100 Refinements Treasure Body technique. Magical treasures are reliable, but I already have the Black Dragon magical bead. Another magical treasure won't make much of a difference to me. Besides, not every magical treasure can be fused into the body. After pondering for a moment, Lu Changxing decided to take a risk and draw for a cultivation technique. He was fed up with the useless returning origin technique. Always just struggling through bitter practice with slow progress. He hoped for a cultivation method like the Immortal Beauty technique or the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art that could offer a shortcut. System, I designate a draw for a cultivation technique. Lu Changxing immediately said. In an instant, the layout of the spinning lottery wheel changed. No longer was it a golden light flashing rapidly across 7 categories. Instead, the cultivation techniques section glowed intensely with golden light. Patterns of various cultivation techniques and divine skills whizzed by quickly. Lu Changxing saw one technique after another. Heavenly Circulation Starry Technique, Brahman Demon True Saint Technique, Feathered Ascension Scripture, Great Nurturing Heaven Demon Scripture, 36 Styles Muddy Water Harvest Battling Elixir Method. Goodness, there are all kinds of techniques. What if I got a demonic cultivation technique? Should I practice it or not? Lu Changxing closely watched the unpredictable patterns in front of him, thinking to himself. Eventually, the lottery will stop. An image of a jade scroll with 7 swords on it emerged before him, accompanied by a system notification sound. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture. The reward has been placed in the system space, and the host can check it at any time. 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture? The system finally came through for once. Lu Changxing, upon seeing the award pattern, immediately felt a surge of excitement. With the words Sword Scripture, Lu Changxing knew it was the type of qi refinement cultivation technique he wanted. Because qi refinement cultivation techniques are a general term and come in many varieties. There are foundational techniques like the returning origin technique, which is neutral and mundane. Techniques that specialize in vitality like those of the wood element. Techniques focused on alchemy and artifact refining associated with the wood and fire elements. And even poison or demonic techniques fall under the category of qi refinement techniques. But this technique had the words Sword Scripture, and Lu Changxing knew it was a sword Dao cultivation technique. According to what Lu Changxing knew, sword cultivation techniques typically emphasized on combat and aggression. Lu Changxing didn't mind and immediately looked towards the system space. This technique was similar to the 100 Refinements treasure body art. It had not only the methods of cultivation through absorption. In each layer, there were also matching spells and features of the techniques. For instance, the first level during energy refinement stage came with 3 matching spells: 7 Luminaries Sword Light, 7 Luminaries Sword Shield, and 7 Luminaries Sword Escape. Attack, defense, pursuit, and escape were all covered. Moreover, the 7 Luminaries Sword Qi cultivated through the 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture also had the characteristic of eliminating elixir toxicity. Most cultivators usually consume elixir medicines to assist in their cultivation. But elixir medicines, more or less, always carry some elixir toxicity. Not to mention being harmful to the body. Take the yellow dragon elixir, for example. Consuming it excessively could cause the body to develop resistance to elixir medicines. As a result, consuming elixir medicines would become ineffective or barely effective. This was also the reason why, even though Lu Changxing had spirit stones to purchase elixir medicines for cultivation support, he did not overuse them and knew the right limit. It was because of the issue of elixir toxicity. But now, with the 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture, he could use elixir medicines to increase his cultivation level without any reservations. Completely fearless of elixir toxicity. However, eliminating elixir toxicity wasn't so simple. It would require time and strenuous effort to refine and expel the toxicity. And when refining the toxicity, the body had to endure the torment of sword qi cutting deep. But this pain is nothing compared to the unfettered use of elixir medicines, free of side effects. It's hardly worth mentioning. Lu Changxing's eyes sparkled. If he could consume elixir medicines without inhibition, his cultivation speed would double. Originally, he thought it would take 6 to 7 years to break through to the 8th level energy refinement. But now, able to use elixir medicines without inhibition, the time required for cultivation would be greatly reduced. Moreover, each layer of this technique came with matching spells and features of the technique, such as the 7 Luminaries Heart Lamp on the 2nd level. The 3rd level 7 Luminaries Star Sword, 7 Luminaries Sword Formation. It can be described as extremely powerful. What made Lu Changxing even more excited and satisfied was that the 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture could also be split up into multiple techniques. It could be divided into the Sun Brilliance Sword Technique, Lunar Brilliance Sword Technique, Venus Brilliance Sword Technique, Jupiter Wood Brilliance Sword Technique, Mars Fire Brilliance Sword Technique, Saturn Earth Brilliance Sword Technique, Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Life and Death Sword Chapter, and 5 Brilliances Stars Annihilation Sword Canon. The reason is simple: orthodox level techniques are incredibly difficult. Not only are they hard to cultivate, but they are also challenging to comprehend. Only those with exceptional talent can successfully cultivate the 7 Luminaries Great Freedom Sword Scripture. Therefore, to make it possible for most disciples to cultivate, the 7 luminaries sword sect lowered the difficulty by dividing it into multiple techniques, allowing the disciples to choose according to their spiritual root attributes and the features of the techniques. Orthodox level techniques are difficult to comprehend because it's very hard to understand and cultivate them. If it weren't for the system's direct inheritance, it would be nearly impossible for me to comprehend and master this technique on my own. In the future, when my children start cultivating, even if I teach them this technique, they would find it very difficult to grasp and cultivate. But the split techniques such as the Sun Brilliant Sword Technique, Lunar Brilliant Sword Technique, Venus Brilliant Sword Technique, are of the exquisite level, and relatively speaking, are much easier to get started with. If the children are exceptionally gifted, they can start cultivating with the Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Life and Death Sword chapter. Lu Chengxing exhaled deeply. This was one of the aspects that made him extremely excited and satisfied with the 7 luminaries' Great Freedom Sword scripture. It not only resolved the issue of his cultivation techniques, but it also addressed the future cultivation technique needs for his children. Although it would be a while before his children started cultivating, at least now he didn't have to worry about it. Chapter 174. So this is how you attract romantic luck, huh? _1 Inside the spiritual talisman shop. Lu Chengxing sat cross-legged, with his 5 hearts pointing to the heavens and eyes closed, his expression solemn. The spiritual lake within his chi ocean core bubbled and churned, slowly flowing through his meridians and into his limbs and bones. This caused the originally pure white spiritual energy in the lake to gradually take on several additional hues. Moreover, there were vague silhouettes of 7 tiny swords above the lake, flickering in and out of existence. Phew! Lu Chengxing opened his eyes and exhaled a breath of turbid air. Though the returning origin technique is rubbish, it cannot be said to be entirely without merits. Its spiritual power is neutral and balanced, without any properties, allowing for a smooth transition to other cultivation techniques. If I were practicing a different cultivation technique, to transform all of my spiritual power into 7 luminaries sword chi would be much more difficult and might even lead to a regression in cultivation level. Lu Chengxing introspectively observed the spiritual power in his chi ocean core and silently thought. Just now, he had attempted to switch to practicing the 7 luminaries Great Freedom Sword scripture. He wanted to transform the spiritual power of his entire body from the returning origin technique into that of the 7 luminaries Great Freedom Sword scripture. He found the process to be very smooth. Although there was a significant loss of spiritual power, the problem was not major. In around 3 to 4 months, all of my spiritual energy will be transformed into 7 luminaries spiritual power. This 7 luminaries Great Freedom Sword scripture truly deserves to be an orthodox level cultivation technique. The spiritual power cultivated from it is not only 3 to 4 times more profound than my original spiritual power but also significantly sharper and more domineering. Once all my spiritual power is transformed into 7 luminaries spiritual power, I fear I may be comparable to someone of the 8th level energy refinement, or even 9th level cultivation realm. This must be what they call a robust foundation. When the time comes for me to break through to foundation establishment, I shall overcome the magic barrier with ease. Lu Chengxing looked at the spiritual energy in the lake and couldn't help but feel excited. Originally, his reason for wanting a good cultivation technique was to lay a solid foundation for himself, so that he could go further in the future. Now, with this orthodox level cultivation technique, his foundation would be incredibly solid. 7th level energy refinement comparable to 9th level energy refinement. Does that not mean I will be able to challenge those above my rank in the future? No, that's not right. Whenever I've encountered enemies, their cultivation levels have been higher than mine, and when facing an enemy, doesn't everyone rely on tactics rather than just cultivation level? Lu Chengxing thought to himself and then shook his head. He suddenly felt that his circumstances were not very suited to such a battle-focused cultivation technique. On one hand, he had always been kind to others and disliked violence. On the other hand, in a fight, he usually relied on external aids, rather than his own cultivation realm. In such cases, cultivating a technique adept in nurturing life or escaping danger would suit him better. However, now that he had received the cultivation technique and started practicing it, Lu Changxing wouldn't dwell on those distractions any longer. Besides, Lu Changxing felt that cultivation techniques for nurturing life or escaping weren't necessarily better or more suited to him. As his cultivation level improved, conflicts and battles on the path of cultivation were inevitable. In the Qi refinement realm, thanks to the system's lucky draws, he had no problem fighting against higher-ranked opponents using external items. However, as his cultivation realm increased, talismans, puppets, treasures, and other external aids would become less and less helpful. They would no longer enable one to fight against opponents of a higher rank as they do now. By then, one's own cultivation combat power would become particularly important. Noticing that it had also grown dark outside, Lu Changxing stood up and left the spiritual talisman shop to head home. At this moment, at a tavern diagonally opposite the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, a beautiful girl dressed in a purple gown sat by the window. With her delicate arms supporting her cheeks, she looked out the window with idle boredom. When the girl saw Lu Changxing walking out of the spiritual talisman shop, her eyes suddenly brightened. "I've paid a significant price to allow the Lockhart goo to recover its energy quickly. You better not disappoint me," the girl murmured to herself, gazing at Lu Changxing's figure. She then raised her palm. And on it, the flesh on the girl's delicate palm shifted and split open, revealing a blood-colored goo insect, less than an inch long and lustrous, wriggling out. "Little guy, it's all up to you now," said the girl to the Lockhart goo. The insect seemed to understand her words, nodding its tiny antenna in response. Seeing this, the girl also smiled, closed her fist gently, and stepped out of the inn. After watching in secret for some time, she had learned Lu Changxing's daily routine and movements. He basically moved between the spiritual talisman shop and his home. She had also chosen her moment carefully, knowing that the alley Lu Changxing took home was usually deserted. It was the perfect spot and opportunity for her to take action. Acting within the marketplace, although risky, gave people a sense of lowered guard compared to outside, making it easier for her to succeed. If she chose to act outside the marketplace, then she recalled how Lu Changxing would respond with an onslaught of talisman treasures and a barrage of talismans. She couldn't help but remember the humiliating moment she had been bombarded with them by Lu Changxing, beaten into an embarrassing retreat, and nearly losing her life at his hands. But thinking of Lu Changxing succumbing to the Lockhart goo, falling helplessly in love with her, and being unable to extricate himself, the girl felt exultant. What better revenge is there than to make an old enemy fall in love with you, to the point of desperation? The girl in the purple gown looked at the back of Lu Changxing, her beautiful face breaking into a smile. Seeing Lu Changxing enter the alley and confirming no one else was there, the girl immediately called out, "Lu Daoist, please wait for a moment." Lu Changxing heard someone calling him and paused, turning to look back. He promptly saw a beautiful and spirited girl in a purple gown signaling to him, quickly approaching. Miss, are you calling me?" Chapter 175, So this is how you attract romantic luck, huh? Lu Changxing looked at the girl in the purple dress with some surprise. "That's right, I heard Lu Daoist is a talisman master, so there is a matter I wish to trouble Lu Daoist with," the girl in the purple dress said with a smile as she quickly walked toward Lu Changxing. "What matter?" Lu Changxing was a bit surprised when he heard this. Though his identity as a talisman master was not a secret, he did not know this girl. The sudden approach of a stranger asking for a favor left him somewhat baffled. "It's just," the girl in the purple dress had just begun to speak when her eyes suddenly shone with a bewitching purple light. It was brilliant and soul-snatching, causing Lu Changxing's mental spirit to waver in an instant. However, just as Lu Changxing felt his heart flutter and his mind waver, a cleansing spiritual essence burst from the cold jade pendant on his chest. It quickly brought him back from his dazed stupor. Not good. Lu Changxing regained his senses, immediately realizing that something was amiss. The girl in the purple dress in front of him was problematic. She had just tried to employ some sort of technique on him. He promptly sought to activate the body-protecting techniques of his magical robe and the cold jade pendant. But at that instant, a tingling pain spread like numbness from his neck. It felt as though he had been bitten by something. It made his mental spirit flutter faintly. Yet, in the blink of an eye, boom! Lu Changxing felt the peach blossom goo at his brow burst forth with a powerful will. This breath of will was like an erupting volcano, a pouring river, like an imperious beast that had been defied, unleashing its grandeur in the face of provocation. It suppressed the trembling of his mental spirit. The pink peach blossom mark, usually concealed on Lu Changsheng's forehead, emerged involuntarily, radiating a rose glow. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Accompanied by the outburst of the peach blossom gust breath of will, a slight hissing sound arose. Lu Changsheng immediately heard a faint buzzing noise. Behold, a tiny blood-red bug swiftly flew away from his neck. Lu Changsheng, seeing this, enveloped his palm with spiritual power and swiftly grabbed. Like a hawk seizing a rabbit, he tightly captured the tiny creature in his hand. Then, producing a stack of talismans, he looked toward the girl in the purple dress. Hiss! At this moment, the girl let out a muffled grunt. Her face filled with disbelief as she looked at Lu Changsheng. Not understanding what was happening. What was wrong with the Lockhart goo? In that instant, she felt a powerful will emanating from the Lockhart goo, causing her heart to pound violently. As Lu Changxing met her gaze, their eyes unintentionally locked. In this encounter, the girl in the purple dress felt her heart stir. She sensed a special kind of affection spreading and rising within her heart, making her feel an uncontrollable urge to draw closer to Lu Changxing, who looked unexpectedly pleasing to her eyes. What's happening? No sooner had this emotion begun to spread from her heart than the girl in the purple dress realized that something was off. She had a very clear understanding of herself. Although Lu Changxing was handsome and had an extraordinary temperament, she was not the kind of person to judge by appearances. How could she possibly develop a fondness and desire for closeness just because someone looked handsome? Moreover, she had secretly observed Lu Changxing for some time and had never felt this way. The Lockhart goo has malfunctioned. Could it be backlash from the goo creature? Seeing the radiant peach blossom mark on Lu Changsheng's forehead, the girl in the purple dress faintly guessed what had happened. Lu Changsheng possessed some sort of rare treasure, or perhaps a goo that was more powerful and more domineering than the Lockhart goo, causing her attempt to charm him with the Lockhart goo to fail, and leading to a backlash from the creature. Resulting in the reversal of the Lockhart goo effects, impacting her, the host, instead. How can this be possible? The Lockhart goo is close to a heavenly spirit goo in rank, and even though it is greatly weakened and not yet fully recovered, it should not be possible for it to backlash like this. How could he possibly possess such a treasure, or a nearly extinct creature like the heavenly spirit goo? This speculation caused the girl in the purple dress to feel as if tumultuous waves were crashing within her, filled with disbelief. But as she looked at Lu Changxing in front of her, she could feel the affection welling up inside her. This feeling of fondness made her panic more than ever before, because as the host to the Lockhart goo, she knew all too well the domineering nature of the Lockhart goo. Once someone was bitten by it, they would uncontrollably develop affectionate feelings toward her. These feelings would intensify over time and contact, growing stronger, eventually leading to an obsession that could push them to die for her. Now with the goo effects reversed, impacting the host herself, she would start developing uncontrollable affectionate feelings for Lu Changxing, growing into an obsession that would make her willing to die for him. Huff, huff, huff. Without further thought, Lu Changxing launched a spell with a stack of talismans and directed his green-faced sword to strike at her. Even though private duels were forbidden within the marketplace, and one could not start a fight, how could Lu Changxing not counterattack when the girl in the purple dress had made a move against him? No, I must get away, get far away. Escape the influence of the Lockhart goo. The girl, seeing the spells and flying sword coming at her, did not dare hesitate further. She formed a protective aura around her body and took out several talismans to activate them, directly withstanding Lu Changsheng's onslaught. Then, with a groan, she turned into a shadow and made a rapid retreat. At that moment, she couldn't afford to think too much, nor did she care about the Lockhart goo that she had obtained with great difficulty, now falling into the hands of Lu Chongqing. All she could think about was taking advantage of the moment, before the Lockhart Gus effects completely overtook her mind and thoughts, to quickly leave this place. To get far, far away from where Lu Chongqing was. Chapter 176. So this is how you attract romantic luck, huh? Otherwise, as time went by, the closer I got to her, the faster those feelings of love would permeate my heart. By then, even if Lu Chongqing wanted to kill her, she would gladly accept it. Lu Chongqing saw the purple-dressed woman turn into a shadow and disappear. He wanted to chase after her but decided it was no use. She was too fast, and without using a talisman, he couldn't catch up with her at all. But once out of the alley, there was the main street. With people coming and going on the road, it wasn't appropriate for him to use a bunch of talismans. Who exactly is she and why did she suddenly attack me? Lu Chongqing looked in the direction where the purple-dressed girl had vanished, filled with immense confusion. He didn't know when he had offended her, for her to lash out so abruptly. Could it be when I was dealing with stolen goods, someone took notice? Lu Chongqing guessed inwardly. But he felt that was unlikely. If someone had been watching him, they wouldn't have made a move like that in the marketplace. Afterward, he looked at the small creature he had captured in his palm. It was a tiny bug, less than an inch long and entirely blood-red in color. What is this? A bug, goo? Lu Chongqing gazed at the blood-red goo writhing and appearing somewhat wilted in his hand, his eyebrows slightly furrowed. Could it be that she was trying to infest me with goo just now? He remembered the moment the blood-red goo bit him and how his mental spirit shuddered. Immediately afterward, the peach blossom goo between his eyebrows burst forth with a powerful will, suppressing the shudder, and Lu Chongqing had a vague speculation in his mind. Since obtaining the peach blossom goo, Lu Chongqing had also perused plenty of information about goo. He knew that, similar to demon beasts, the goo were extremely sensitive to the quality of bloodline suppression. For instance, a 9 netherhound with a heavenly rank bloodline could suppress ordinary demon beasts just by its presence. This meant that demon beasts of a common bloodline would inherently feel weakened by 3 parts in spirit and combat strength when facing a 9 netherhound. And it was the same with goo. Even more so. With the peach blossom goo, a heaven spirit goo by his side, he could be immune to the effects of many goo. If other goo tried to infest him, it was like they were challenging and offending the peach blossom goo, which would provoke its instinctual resistance. The response from the peach blossom goo earlier perfectly matched this situation he was aware of. At that moment, the peach blossom goo between his eyebrows sent out a faint ripple. It was indicating he had just gained a wave of romance fortune. Romance fortune? Out of the blue, where did this romance fortune come from? Lu Chongqing's brows furrowed. He felt it was quite inexplicable. He didn't understand where this wave of romance fortune had arisen from. Wait, could this romance fortune be coming from that purple-dressed girl? Lu Chongqing thought of the purple-dressed girl who had just fled. But how could there be romance fortune between us when I was just minding my business? The peach blossom goo has already harvested the romance fortune, which means there's something developed between her and me, a connection. But I am clearly a stranger to her, we've only seen each other once, so how come something developed between us just like that? At this moment, Lu Chongqing was completely puzzled. He couldn't figure out the purple-dressed girl's situation. Nor could he understand what was going on with this wave of romance fortune. Wait, I've read about a type of goo in books before, called the love charm goo. This love goo is a pair of mother and child goo. The person possessing the mother goo can plant the child goo into someone else's body, causing the victim to fall in love with them, forever unable to leave their side. Could it be, this goo insect is the very love goo I once read about in ancient texts? This woman in the purple dress wanted to cast a goo on me to make me fall in love with her, but due to the effect of the peach blossom goo, I didn't fall for her, and instead, she fell for me? Lu Chongqing looked at the blood-colored goo in his hand, his eyes narrowed slightly, giving rise to a speculation. Although this speculation was too far-fetched. In Lu Chongqing's mind, it was the only possibility. A possibility that could barely be justified. Otherwise, he really couldn't understand. If that's really the case, isn't it too far-fetched? Lu Chongqing couldn't help shaking his head. He sighed inwardly, thinking that if it were true, the peach blossom Gus' fortune in love was way too domineering. Wasn't this just a forced gift? He had never even met the person before. And yet, out of the blue, here came a wave of peach blossom luck. But the love goo shouldn't work like this, should it? The love goo is divided into mother and child goo, with the host's body containing the mother goo, and requiring the child goo to be implanted into the target's body. Only then will the target fall in love with the host, thus being inseparable for life. This goo bit me, and under the will and pressure of the peach blossom goo, it immediately tried to escape, which clearly doesn't align with the way the love goo is supposed to work. Or could it be said that this is a goo similar to the love goo? Lu Chongqing looked at the blood-colored goo in his hand, and felt it didn't quite match the description of the love goo he had read about in his books. Forget it, too lazy to think about it. Lu Chongqing was too lazy to keep pondering over it. He touched the wound on his neck. It was just a small wound, already almost healed. He thought this blood-colored goo was quite powerful. One should know, he had cultivated the 100 Refinements treasure body art, and his physical body was comparable to a magic artifact. Yet this blood-colored goo managed to breach his defenses with just one bite. However, this peach blossom goo is really something else, good as it is, but every time it's a bit unfathomable. Moreover, if not careful, it could easily turn into a disaster, becoming a peach blossom calamity. Lu Chongqing was somewhat weary of this inexplicable fortune in love. Every time he encountered luck in love, it was accompanied by incidents. Especially the first time, he was directly presented with a golden core lady. If there had been a slight mishap, it would have turned into a peach blossom calamity. But to give up the peach blossom goo? He was also reluctant to let go. At least the benefits of having the peach blossom goo outweigh the disadvantages. Not only do I gain more luck in love, but am also immune to the effects of most goo insects. Otherwise, like in this situation, would have been in danger. Falling head over heels in love with someone because of a love goo, wouldn't that just ruin me? Lu Chongqing muttered to himself. Sigh, cultivators have 1,001 tricks, truly leaving one unable to guard against them. I need to be more careful in the future, stay vigilant. Although private fights are forbidden in the marketplace, that doesn't mean there are no dangers. Lu Chongqing took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. Reflecting on the recent events, he acknowledged that he had indeed been lacking caution, which resulted in a passive situation. But now, what should I do with this thing? Lu Chongqing looked at the blood-colored goo in his hand, suddenly pondering how to deal with the goo insect. P.S. Although I'm ashamed to ask for a monthly pass with this update. But today I saw in the group chat that there is a raffle for 1,000 monthly passes, and currently I have 911, so I humbly appeal, if you have a monthly pass, please cast one for this author. Tomorrow is the end of the month, and the pass will expire if not used. Once I recover in the next few days, I'll try to increase the update rate, thanks a lot. Thanks. Chapter 177, Chapter 177, 104, based on my guess, this should be a type of Lockhart goo insect. That purple-dressed woman just now was bitten back by this goo, which caused her to develop feelings for me, bringing me a wave of romantic luck. Generally speaking, if the goo insect dies, its effects will disappear as well, therefore, this goo cannot be killed. Not only can it not be killed, but it must be well cared for, so that there is a chance for revenge in the future. Lu Chongqing looked at the listless blood-colored goo in his hand and silently thought. The purple-dressed woman attacked him out of the blue, laying the goo on him in an attempt to harm him clandestinely. If it hadn't been for the peach blossom goo by his side, he might have fallen for it, becoming her devoted lackey. Such a great vengeance could not easily be let go of. It must be avenged fiercely. If he were to kill the goo right now, causing the effect on her to dissipate, that would be tantamount to letting her off the hook. So, he decided to raise the goo well. As long as he had this goo in hand, he would have an additional means of control when he encountered her in the future. Speaking of which, can I refine this goo to serve me? Lu Changsheng's eyes narrowed slightly as he suddenly thought. From the recent situation, he could clearly feel that this goo was not ordinary. It was not a regular goo. If he could refine it, he might be able to figure out its effects and use it for himself. Such matters cannot be tried lightly. I will look into information on goo insects later to see if I can find anything about this particular one. After all, goo insects are not something to be trifled with. They are ferocious and difficult to refine. I was able to refine the peach blossom goo only because I drew it from the system. This goo insect is not simple. Now, if I attempt to refine and tame it while it has a master, one misstep and there's a good chance of trouble, or even backlash. Lu Changxing immediately dismissed the idea of refining this goo. As of now, he did not even know what type of goo this was or what the situation entailed. If he were to rashly refine it, there could very well be unforeseen accidents. After all, having refined the peach blossom goo in the past let him know that refining a goo insect was not easy. If it hadn't been for the fact that the peach blossom goo was drawn from the system, offering no resistance and actively cooperating with him, he wouldn't have been able to refine it at all. This goo insect, though not as remarkable as the peach blossom goo, was clearly extraordinary. Refinement would certainly not be simple. Immediately, Lu Changxing took out a jade box from his storage bag. He placed the listless blood-colored goo inside. And he took out a sealing talisman to stick on the top, to prevent the goo from escaping. Then he found a magic artifact shop. He spent 30 spirit stones to buy a goo container specially for holding goo insects. He also spent 50 spirit stones to purchase a spiritual pet bag. Storage bags could not contain living things. Even with the goo container, the blood-colored goo could only be placed in the spiritual pet bag, not in the storage bag. And the only spiritual pet bag he had was the one given by the Lu family for the iron feather eagle. So he bought one for himself. In the future, it would be useful for the 9 netherhound as well. Moreover, creatures like demon beasts and goo insects should preferably not be kept together if they are of different species. Otherwise, there might be an accident. Lu Changxing also did not trust having the blood-colored goo together with the iron feather eagle. After completing all these tasks, Lu Changxing headed back home. Meanwhile, a purple-dressed young woman left the 9 Dragons Market in a rush. What on earth is going on? How could he possibly have such a treasure, a heavenly-grade goo insect like the Lockhart goo? At this moment, Meng Xiaochan still could not believe what had just transpired. It felt almost like a dream. If it weren't for the fact that the Lockhart goo was not in her hand and the lingering affection in her heart, she would truly feel as if she were dreaming. She couldn't believe that the Lockhart goo, which she obtained after so much painstaking effort, was gone just like that. Not only was the Lockhart goo gone, but she also suffered a backlash from the goo insect, putting herself in the pitfall and suffering losses. Damn it. I must kill him and take back the Lockhart goo. Otherwise, even if I flee far away and never see him again, the Lockhart goo will continue to affect me. Meng Xiaochan clenched her teeth, a dark hatred flashing in her eyes. However, as this thought emerged, her heart suddenly trembled with pain. The handsome face of Lu Changxing appeared in her mind, making her feel affectionate. She wondered how she could have such thoughts, how she could harm him. Hew. Such a terrifying Lockhart goo, such a domineering Lockhart goo. Meng Xiaochan covered her aching chest, breathing lightly. After a moment, she formed a spiritual art with her hands, touched her forehead, and calmed her restless mental spirit, her eyes filled with determination. No, I can't think of him anymore, otherwise the Lockhart goo will keep influencing me subtly, and its effects will become stronger and stronger. I must break through to Foundation establishment as soon as possible, only then can I hope to break free from the Lockhart goo's influence and restrictions. The Purple Shadow secret realm is about to open, and if I can make some gains within, get someone to refine a Foundation establishment elixir for me, then I have a 70% chance of achieving Foundation establishment successfully. Meng Xiaochan dared not continue to dwell on it. She took out a leaf-shaped flying magic artifact from her storage bag, turned into a ray of light, and quickly left. Lu Changxing returned home as usual. He didn't give much thought to the matter with the purple-dressed young woman. Mainly because the whole affair was too bewildering for him. He was completely clueless and could not make heads or tails of it. After chatting with his wives and maids and finishing dinner, he fell asleep slowly with the company of his 3 wives. Chapter 178, The Overbearing Lockhart Gu. The next day, Lu Changxing arrived at the Ink Cloud Pavilion. It was a shop where he often purchased books. The shop mainly sold cultivation techniques and spells, as well as things related to the cultivation world, such as records of marvels, local customs, and societal conditions. Lu Changxing asked the shopkeeper for a few tomes about gu insects. Lu Dongjia, the price will be 9 spirit stones, said the bookstore shopkeeper as he handed 3 tomes to Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing didn't bargain. In the cultivation world, there was a significant monopoly on knowledge, so the price of books had always been quite high. And these were just ordinary books. For spells and cultivation techniques, prices started from several tens of spirit stones and could go up to several hundreds. He had previously inquired about the value of a second transformation inheritance of the 100 arts of cultivation. The other party indicated that it depended on which art it was. And a second transformation inheritance could vary in quality, it would be appraised based on the situation. Through several casual conversations, Lu Changxing had estimated the value of the second transformation beast taming inheritance he had initially obtained. That inheritance could sell for at least 1,000 spirit stones. However, selling it would require signing a contract and swearing an oath to the heart demon, agreeing not to sell or leak any relevant information again. So, as he was not particularly short on money at the moment, Lu Changxing had not sold the second transformation beast taming inheritance. After storing the 3 books, Lu Changxing returned to the spiritual talisman shop and began reading. After spending a morning, Lu Changxing finished reading the 3 books. It seems the bloody gu insect is rarer and more unusual than I imagined. Lu Changxing set down the book in his hands and exhaled lightly. The 3 books introduced a lot of information and knowledge about gu insects. They also covered many common ones. But he did not find any information related to that bloody gu. This is also within my expectations. That bloody gu is obviously not an ordinary one. Most of the gu insects introduced in these 3 books are either mortal or spiritual gu. The bloody gu is most likely a mysterious spirit gu, or even an earth spirit gu, Lu Changxing thought to himself. As for a heavenly spirit gu, he deemed it unlikely. Because his own peach blossom gu was a heavenly spirit gu. If that bloody gu were a heavenly spirit gu, there would not be incidents of the gu insect rebelling against its master. From browsing the books, he learned that gu insects rebelling is a rare event. It only occurs when there is a difference of a full rank between the gu insects, and there is a certain disparity in strength. Although his peach blossom gu was a heavenly spirit gu, its strength was not very impressive. It was currently only at the peak of the first transformation. Only when its master, himself, broke through the foundation establishment stage could it break through to the second transformation. So, Lu Changxing guessed that the bloody gu was at most an earth spirit gu. Thinking this, Lu Changxing took the gu jar out of the spiritual pet bag. He opened the jar lid to check on the bloody gu insect. It still looked listless. Will this thing starve to death if it's kept like this? Lu Changxing looked at the half-dead appearance of the bloody gu insect and frowned slightly. After all, gu insects needed to eat. The peach blossom gu was quite special. It lived on the fortunes of peach blossoms. It didn't need him to feed it normally. But he did not know what the bloody gu insect ate. It would be rather embarrassing if it starved to death. After some thought, Lu Changxing tried the most straightforward method. He took out a variety of spirit food and spiritual objects from the storage bag, putting them into the gu jar to see if it would eat anything. After several attempts, Lu Changxing saw that a so-called blood spirit nectar caught the bloody gu insect's interest, and it began to lick it. Good, seeing the bloody gu insect eating, Lu Changxing immediately felt relieved. He let it eat a drop and then stored the blood spirit nectar away. He planned to drop 1 or 2 drops every few days. Keeping it in this barely alive, listless state was enough. If it got too healthy and escaped, what would he do then? In the blink of an eye, over half a month passed. One day, Lu Changxing received a notification from White Jade Tower. They reported that a batch of maids for members had arrived and asked if Lu Changxing was interested. If he was, he could go and learn more about it. Hearing this, Lu Changxing immediately went to White Jade Tower. He wanted to see what these so-called member-exclusive maids were like. But after learning about them and seeing them, Lu Changxing promptly bid farewell to Feng Jianyang. These maids were indeed excellent. Both in looks and figure, they were the best of the best. Not only did they possess spiritual root aptitudes, but they also cultivated some form of furnace dual cultivation technique, beneficial for cultivation, and even for breaking through realms. But the price was too expensive. Even the cheapest one started at 1,000 spirit stones. Casually, it amounted to several thousand spirit stones. Faced with such prices, Lu Changxing naturally could only take his leave. Sigh, I really am too poor. White Jade Tower is definitely not a place I can afford to patronize at my current stage. Lu Changxing couldn't help but shake his head as he left White Jade Tower. He could afford regular maids at White Jade Tower, but those with spiritual roots at a certain level were beyond his means. Without an unexpected windfall, his regular income couldn't support such an expenditure. However, I'm pretty much set for now with wives and maids. There's no need to buy more at the moment. I've already spent quite a sum on wives and maids. There are significant daily expenses there as well. If I keep spending money there, it would even affect my own living. Besides, I plan to return to Qingzhou Mountain soon, so there's really no need to add more maids. The residences in Nine Dragons Market are already close to capacity. Lu Changxing walked along the street, thinking to himself. He had come here this time just to see for himself. If there were suitable, affordable maids, he might have considered adding 1 or 2. Chapter 179, The Overbearing Lockhart Gu. If there's none, there's naturally no need for it. After all, the income from the Lu family and his own sales of talismans to Hong Yi and the spiritual talisman shop. Altogether, it only comes to 200 or 300 spirit stones a month. Compared to before, it could naturally be considered a substantial amount. But with so many wives and children, and their diet consisting of spirit rice, spiritual vegetables, spiritual tea, and demon beast meat, it's also quite an expense. Lu Changxing had calculated that these expenses amounted to 70 or 80 spirit stones each month. He would occasionally buy small gifts and trinkets for his wives and children, which also cost a pretty penny. Add to that his own cultivation needs for purchasing elixir medicines, as well as routine purchases, and he spends a considerable amount of spirit stones. So, he hadn't saved many spirit stones. Like the second-rank puppet he crafted, it still hadn't been fitted with middle-grade spirit stones. It was because he couldn't save much money. However, now that I've revealed myself as a superior-grade talisman master, once I can stably provide superior-grade talismans after some time, my income will increase significantly. Lu Changxing let out a sigh. Although he is known to the outside world as a superior-grade talisman master, his success rate in talisman making will have to be steadily demonstrated. It can't happen overnight. So, the talismans he usually crafts, as well as those for the Lu family's missions, still tend to be of the middle grade. Once he can stably reveal superior grade talismans, his income within the Lu family will increase significantly. Moreover, at this stage, what matters most to me is the improvement of my strength and cultivation level. With the 7 luminaries' Great Freedom Sword scripture, once I've converted all my spiritual power into 7 luminary spiritual power, I will be able to consume elixir medicines without any inhibitions. And raise my cultivation level and strength at the fastest speed. As long as my strength and cultivation level increase, not only will my income increase, but finding wives and maids will also become much easier. Lu Changxing pondered in his heart, planning to focus his energy mainly on cultivation for the upcoming period. If his strength increased, what man would lack in wives and concubines. After all, in this world, cultivation level and strength are paramount. With strength, fairies, goddesses, witches, princesses, and empresses were not an issue. Half a month later. Inside the spiritual talisman shop. Lu Changxing was crafting talismans. When he heard from Zhang Shan that Lu Miaoge had arrived, he immediately went downstairs to greet her. Changxing. When Lu Miaoge saw Lu Changxing, she smiled and nodded. She was still dressed in her snow-white garments, her face as clear and exquisite as the snow itself, her hair lightly tied and cascading down her back, exuding an ethereal and elegant charm. Sister Miaoge, you're here. I'm sorry to trouble you this time. Lu Changxing said to Lu Miaoge in a familiar manner. Afterwards, he went with Lu Miaoge to the third floor, picked up the spiritual tea from the table, and poured her a cup. It's no trouble, I'm not busy usually. Lu Miaoge said softly, her voice clear and melodiously captivating. I've still inconvenienced you. But if you have other matters and need to leave, just let me know, and I'll come over. I don't have much to attend to on this trip back, so I can come over at any time. Lu Changxing spoke up. He intended to return mainly to focus on his cultivation and spend more time with his wives and children. It wasn't to say that he wouldn't come back after returning. Although he didn't care much for the income of this spiritual talisman shop, it would still be somewhat inconvenient on Qingzhou Mountain. In due time, he would also need to visit Nine Dragons Marketplace to buy some things or handle some matters. Okay, got it. Lu Miaoge nodded lightly. She then smiled and said, by the way, congratulations on becoming a superior grade talisman master. It was just a stroke of luck, not comparable to you, Sister Miaoge. I also owe a lot to your guidance back then. At these words, Lu Changxing smiled. When both he and Lu Miaoge were at the spiritual talisman shop, she would occasionally pay attention to his progress in talisman making and teach him the craft. Though he didn't need it, her guidance was a kind gesture. Saying this now was to reinforce their relationship, as it had been quite a while since he'd seen Lu Miaoge. When do you plan to return to Qingzhou Mountain? Lu Miaoge asked with a light smile. The second elder is about ready to go back, so I plan to return with him. Lu Changxing replied. With the second elder present, he naturally prepared to hitch a ride on the tailwind. At the same time, he would bring Lu Zier, Lu Qing'er, and little Qing back with him. The other maids, on the other hand, would stay in Nine Dragons Marketplace for the time being. After all, the house was rented for 5 years, he would have to come back at that time. Moreover, keeping the maids here would provide him with an extra reason to return to Nine Dragons Marketplace in the future. Good, then I will stay here for the time being. When you want to return, just let me know in advance. Lu Miaoge nodded slightly. Afterward, the two of them chatted for a while, talking about past events involving Lu Miaoyang and topics related to talisman making. Seeing that their conversation was winding down, Lu Changxing invited Lu Miaoge to have a meal at Jade Meal Pavilion. Upon arriving at Jade Meal Pavilion and seeing Yu Maocheng, he too informed him of his plans. He conveyed that he would be returning to Qingzhou Mountain and that any matters could be addressed to him there through the mail. Although there probably wouldn't be any issues, and he wasn't leaving never to return, he still felt the need to notify this longtime acquaintance and friend. Once home, he also informed Gao He of his plans. As for Xia Long, he was not at home. He remembered that the last time he saw him was 3 to 4 months ago. He couldn't help but worry about his neighbor, fearing that something unexpected might have happened to him. In the blink of an eye, another half-month passed. That day, the second elder sent someone to the spiritual talisman shop to inform Lu Changxing of his return to Qingzhou Mountain. Lu Changxing inquired about the number of spots available on the second elder's flying boat. But he was told there were 3 spots. Only 3 spots. Lu Changxing furrowed his brow upon hearing this. He had planned to take Lu Zier, Lu Qing'er, and little Qing back with him this time. If there were only 3 spots, that meant only the 3 ladies could take the flying boat while he would have to ride the Iron Feather Eagle. Changxing, if you are bringing a large entourage of wives, concubines, and maids, you can hire a spirit boat to take you back. Seeing Lu Changsheng's expression, Lu Miaoge spoke up. She knew that on this trip back, Lu Changxing intended to spend some time with his wives and children, and to rest and relax. Under such circumstances, he would naturally bring his wives and maids back with him. Oh, they have that service within the marketplace? Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised to hear this. He had been in Nine Dragons marketplace for quite a while and was unaware that one could hire a spirit boat to transport people. If that was the case, he thought of taking Guan Xian, Yuyao, Xiao Yuyao, Xiao Yueru, Yun Qianqian, and the 5 children back to Qingzhou Mountain as well. After all, he planned to spend a long time on Qingzhou Mountain, focusing on his cultivation and spending time with his family. It would be better to have all his consorts and children stay at Qingzhou Mountain. Although the matter with the Lu family ancestor had made the situation for the Lu family not very optimistic, there was no need to be too concerned for at least the next few years. Within the marketplace, the spiritual boat pavilion handles the business of transporting cultivators. They usually travel between it and several other marketplaces. You can charter a spirit boat directly to Qingzhou Mountain, but as for the price, I am not quite sure, said Lu Miaoge, her face lovely and her voice soft and gentle. All right, thank you, Sister Miaoge. I will go to the spiritual boat pavilion and ask, Lu Changxing replied immediately upon hearing her words. He was aware of the spiritual boat pavilion. They not only sold flying boats and spirit boats, but also had 7 or 8 large spirit boats specifically for transporting cultivators and goods, conducting trades with other marketplaces and powers. However, he hadn't realized they also offered charters. Without delay, Lu Changxing left and headed to the spiritual boat pavilion. He inquired about the price to charter a spirit boat to Qingzhou Mountain. After asking about the number of passengers, the person in charge at the spiritual boat pavilion told Lu Changxing that it would cost a total of 160 spirit stones. On hearing the price, Lu Changxing's first thought was that it was expensive. He wanted to bargain, but the other party immediately stated that they did not negotiate prices, saying that this type of charter included personal escorts to ensure safety. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded, paid a deposit of 50 spirit stones, and reserved a spirit boat. They were scheduled to depart 3 days later, heading straight for Qingzhou Mountain. Chapter 180, The more children, the better, no need for others to provide for old age. _ 3 days later. Lu Changxing said goodbye to Lu Miaoge, then took his wives and concubines on a spirit boat from the spiritual boat pavilion back to Qingzhou Mountain. This spirit boat was also a small flying boat. But it could seat a total of 15 people. Apart from Lu Changxing and his family, the pavilion also arranged for a cultivator to control the spirit boat. They also provided 2 cultivators at the energy refinement late stage as escorts, to prevent any dangers or accidents along the way. This made Lu Changxing nod in approval, thinking to himself that although the 160 spirit stones were expensive, they were worth the cost. Moreover, with the reputation of the spiritual boat pavilion, not many robber cultivators would dare to mess with its flying boats. A day and a half later, the spirit boat landed steadily on Qingzhou Mountain. Let's go. Lu Changxing, accompanied by the women, descended from the spirit boat and entered Qingzhou Mountain. If it had been before, bringing so many wives and maids back to Qingzhou Mountain wouldn't have been good. But now, having become a high-ranking talisman master, his benefits, treatment, and status had all been elevated. So bringing a few wives and maids home was no longer a problem. However, it was still necessary to report and register upon arrival. Afterward, Lu Changxing led the women to Qingzhou Villa to report to Uncle Fu. Uncle Fu looked at Lu Changxing, accompanied by 8 women, each of whom was holding a baby, and didn't know what to say for a moment. He vaguely remembered the scene several years ago when Lu Changxing returned with Chu Zhenjin and 2 foreign women. But such matters were not for him to comment on. After all, Lu Changxing had never neglected his duties. He had even recently been promoted to a high-ranking talisman master. Now, his status in the Lu family was even higher than that of a manager like himself. So naturally, he couldn't preach or give advice. In the end, he simply congratulated him, noting that young people have vigor, but they should also take care of their health. As the saying goes, youth is often spent without valuing health, leaving one in tears in old age. Lu Changxing understood that Uncle Fu meant well and nodded with a smile, assuring him that he was aware and had things under control. He then took the women back to his residence in Qingzhou Valley. When Lu Changxing returned home with the women, his arrival with 8 young women and 5 children was witnessed by many of the Lu family disciples. This quickly spread throughout the entire Lu family, causing much gossip. Lu Changxing used to come back carrying 3 children, and now suddenly it's 5. Are these all kids from Changsheng's concubines outside? I heard rumors before that Lu Changxing had dozens of concubines outside. Now it seems it wasn't just a rumor. Brother-in-law Changsheng's wives and maids, taken together, must add up to more than 20 by now, right? Too few, you're thinking too narrow. Just here in Qingzhou Mountain, we have 20. How can you be sure Lu Changxing doesn't have concubines in the marketplace or in the secular world? You can tell, Brother Changxing really loves having children. Speaking of which, why did Changxing bring so many wives and concubines back this time? Wasn't he managing shops in Nine Dragons Market? I did hear about it. Brother Changxing recently became a high-ranking talisman master, so he came back this time to focus quietly on the talisman path. What, Lu Changxing became a high-ranking talisman master already? Hiss, a high-ranking talisman master, it hasn't been that long, and Brother Changxing has already been promoted to high-ranking talisman master. No way, with all this marrying and having kids, how does he have the energy to focus on the talisman path? Last time, Ching took me to Spring Abundance Building for 3 days of fun, and I was shaky all that time, my concentration suffered. Maybe this is just extraordinary talent. The Lu family disciples were abuzz with discussion. Many felt envious and even had their beliefs challenged upon learning of Lu Changsheng's actions and his promotion to high-ranking talisman master. After all, the Lu family had always taught them that everything was inferior, only cultivation was supreme. Work hard in cultivation for the contribution to the family. Only with undivided focus on the path of cultivation can one achieve success. Now, seeing Lu Changsheng's completely different approach, yet excelling in the talisman path, caused them to doubt. They began to question whether constantly striving in cultivation but still seeing foundation establishment as distant was meaningful or worthwhile. The immortal seedlings that had come to the Lu family with Lu Changxing as his followers couldn't help but sigh upon hearing this. They felt a sense of unbelievable magic. The next day, the family head, Lu Yuanding, came to talk to Lu Changxing. He expressed that there was naturally no problem with Lu Changxing taking wives and concubines. Bringing them back was also not an issue. However, he hoped that in the future, Lu Changxing would not bring so many maids and children back at once. Or at least to keep a lower profile when coming back, otherwise, it would not leave a good impression. Faced with such remarks, Lu Changxing naturally nodded in agreement. He said that he had brought more maids and children back this time because he wanted to spend time with his wives and to concentrate on talismans in the tranquility of Qingzhou Mountain. He assured that it wouldn't happen again next time. Good, as long as you're aware that's fine. Seeing Lu Changxing respond in this manner, Lu Yuanding did not pursue the matter further. Such issues really weren't major concerns. It was just that Lu Changsheng's behavior had somewhat affected the atmosphere of Qingzhou Mountain. So he had come to give a gentle reminder. Otherwise, with Lu Changxing now a high-ranking talisman master, how could he possibly continue to find fault in matters of taking concubines and raising children? Moreover, he himself had once said that the matters of taking wives and concubines were Lu Changsheng's own business, and the Lu family would not interfere. Could it be that Lu Changxing is really going to do as he once said, marry 100 women and father hundreds of children? After leaving Lu Changsheng's residence, Lu Yuanding suddenly thought. Initially, he had taken those words as an exaggeration. Chapter 181, the more children, the better, no need for others to provide for old age. But now, he felt as if Lu Changxing really was proving it through his actions, indicating that his words were not empty. Thinking about the speed at which Lu Changxing married and had children, Lu Yuanding couldn't help but twitch his mouth slightly. Suddenly feeling somewhat relieved that his daughter, Lu Miaohuan, hadn't married Lu Changxing. Otherwise, by now she would probably already be on her third child. After returning to Qingzhou Mountain, Lu Changxing lived a life of seclusion and minimal outings. Every day was spent cultivating, making talisman, and spending time with his wives and children. Occasionally, he would chat with Li Feiyu and watch him train the kids in martial arts. However, the children were still young, and at this stage, martial arts training was about building a foundation. They hadn't truly started practicing martial arts yet. To actually begin martial arts training, they would need to wait until they were around 11 or 12 years old, when their bodies had grown sufficiently. In the blink of an eye, over a month had passed. During this month and a bit, the children in the wombs of Jiang Luyue and Yuyao were born. Jiang Luyu's child had a spiritual root, but it was only a 9th grade spiritual root. While the rate at which Lu Changxing's children grew had slowed compared to the previous year, it continued to increase steadily. In recent days, the 63rd child had been conceived. Today was also the day of the Lu family's spiritual root testing ceremony. Lu Changxing had 5 children participating in this ceremony. The results of the test for the 5 children were as he expected. Only little 7th, Lu Xianji, was detected to have a spiritual root. The quality of the spiritual root was also as he had guessed. A 9th grade spiritual root, biased toward the wood element. Even though it was the lowest 9th grade spiritual root, it still made his mother, Lu Yuzhu, extremely happy. And it made Lu Changxing's other wives and maids incredibly envious. After all, having a spiritual root, no matter how low grade, was still a spiritual root, with the potential for cultivation in the future. From now on, their fates would no longer align with mere mortals, theirs would be the path of immortals. Considering the feelings of his other wives and children, Lu Changxing didn't celebrate extravagantly. Things continued as usual, as if it was just a regular test. As for Lu Xianzi's cultivation, there was no rush right now. He was too young, only 6 years old, his body had not yet fully developed, and starting cultivation too early was not a good thing. In the cultivation world, children typically began their cultivation journey at the age of 12. However, even at this stage, they could start laying a foundation, using treasures of heaven and earth to nourish the body and meridians to build a solid foundation, giving the child a head start for the future. Lu Changxing wasn't stingy. He would allocate 10 spirit stones each month to buy elixir medicines to strengthen Lu Xianzi's body and lay a foundation for cultivation. After all, he was the first child to possess a spiritual root. Even if it was only in 9th grade, Lu Changxing was willing to cultivate him properly. Moreover, after Lu Xianji started cultivating, the improvement in his cultivation level would also benefit Lu Changxing, essentially making it money spent on himself in the end. Sigh, no wonder ordinary cultivators are reluctant to marry and have children. If the child has a spiritual root, you have to cultivate it, but even the most basic cultivation would cost several spirit stones a month, and raising a child from infancy to adulthood is no small sum. Lu Changxing couldn't help but sigh. People like Lu Pingan practicing martial arts hardly spent any money. Eating and drinking spirit rice and spiritual meals every day was enough for them to become martial arts prodigies. But it was different for someone like Lu Xianji, considering that he now had 7 children with spiritual roots, when the remaining 6 children were detected to have spiritual roots and needed financial cultivation for their foundations. That would mean an extra 70 spirit stones spent each month, and as the number of children with spiritual roots increased and they started real cultivation, this expense would continue to grow. Indeed, raising children is never easy, no matter where one is. The more you have, the harder it is to support them. Lu Changxing shook his head in reflection. If he were just an ordinary talisman master, even a superior one wouldn't dare to have so many children, because not only is there an initial investment for learning the craft, but continuous expenses are also necessary for practice and improving the success rate of talisman making. He simply couldn't afford the luxury of not worrying about extra expenses like he could. However, the more children, the better, no need for others to provide for my old age. Once the children grow up, they'll be able to relax, Lu Changxing consoled himself. Late at night. After the deed. Husband, do you think Xuanzhen, Yuzhen, and Saizhen have spiritual roots? Xu Zhenzhen leaned lazily against Lu Changsheng's chest, her eyes brimming with askance. Lu Xianzi's detection of a spiritual root today had made her think of her own 3 children. Regardless of whether they have spiritual roots, they are our children. Lu Changxing gently caressed her soft skin. Xu Zhenzhen had borne him 3 children, 2 of whom had spiritual roots, but he didn't want his wives to focus too much on the matter of the children's spiritual roots. After all, he himself had struggled and suffered with this issue before. It wasn't until he had many children, most of whom didn't have spiritual roots, that he gradually let go and moved on. The kind of nature Xu Zhenzhen had, if she thought too much, it would consume her every day. Yes, at Lu Changsheng's words, Xu Zhenzhen snuggled up to him and softly nodded. She didn't have much interest in cultivation, and she wasn't particularly concerned about whether the children had spiritual roots or not. She just wanted to live a simple life with the person she loved. It was just that she thought Lu Changxing would prefer children with spiritual roots. After all, Lu Changxing often touted the benefits of having many children, not only for a full house, but to also hopefully birth children with good spiritual root potential and then cultivate them well. Now hearing Lu Changxing say this, she felt much more at ease. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed by. One day, in the practice room, huff. Lu Changxing opened his eyes and exhaled a breath of stale air. 7 threads of sword qi flowed around his body, visible both within and outside, sharp and ethereal. Chapter 182, The more children, the better, no need for others to provide for old age. Finally, it's done. Lu Changxing inspected his qi ocean core internally. He saw that the spiritual power in the core's elixir lake had turned entirely into a rainbow of colors at this moment. It signified that the cultivation technique he originally practiced, the returning origin technique, was now completely transformed into the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture. Although the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture is several times more profound and difficult to practice than the returning origin technique and requires several times more spiritual energy to be absorbed, cultivation techniques are divided into 2 parts. One part is the absorption of nature's spiritual energy, which strengthens and tempers the spiritual power. The other part is the understanding of the essence of the technique, which includes its realm, artistic conception, and various profound mysteries of cultivation. I obtained the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture through the system, which directly eliminated the need for the second part. Without spending time to comprehend the profound mysteries of the technique myself, I can cultivate at the fastest speed. This has allowed me to cultivate the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture, an orthodox level cultivation technique, at a speed not the slightest bit slower than the returning origin technique, and even a bit faster. Lu Changsheng's sword qi around his body converged, and his aura became calm. His eyes were bright and spirited. The 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture might be difficult to practice, but for someone like Lu Changxing, who was exceptionally talented, it was even easier compared to the returning origin technique. Because this sword scripture was as if engraved in his mind, allowing him to understand it inside out, ensuring no mistakes in his cultivation. Now that all my spiritual power has transformed into the 7 luminaries' spiritual power, I can also start using the 7 luminaries' sword qi to expel the poison of the elixir medicines, allowing me to consume them without any reservations. With such consumption of elixir medicines for cultivation, I'm afraid it would only take 2 or 3 years for me to reach the peak of the 7th level energy refinement. Moreover, this situation won't affect my foundation. Even more so, with the robustness of the 7 luminaries' spiritual power, advancing from the 7th level to the 8th level energy refinement will be even simpler for me. Lu Changxing let out a light chuckle. He was full of admiration for the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture. And he understood why cultivation techniques could occupy a place in the world of laws and wealth. The benefits and wonders of a profound cultivation technique can't be fully explained in a few words. After converting to the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture, Lu Changxing didn't continue to cultivate. He went outside to relax, chat with his wives and concubines, and play with his children. After all, he was not one who would engage in arduous cultivation. Night fell. Over dinner, Lu Changxing learned something new. The Purple Shadow secret realm was about to open. A core high-ranking member of the Lu family, along with several elite descendants, were heading towards the Purple Shadow secret realm. Lu Changxing had heard of the Purple Shadow secret realm but did not know much about it. After Xiao Yuris' explanation, he came to know what this Purple Shadow secret realm was all about. It was a secret realm jointly managed by several immortal sects of Jiang country, which could also be considered a spiritual vein-blessed land. Inside were many opportunities, and treasures of heaven and earth. Every 30 years, the several immortal sects would open the realm, sending Qi refinement disciples to explore and experience. Besides their disciples, the immortal sects also allowed descendants of other families and loose cultivators to enter. Because anything obtained within the realm had to pass through the hands of the immortal sects upon exit. In such circumstances, the immortal sects were naturally willing to allow more loose cultivators to enter. Other loose cultivators and family descendants knew this but still rushed towards the Purple Shadow secret realm. Because, in addition to opportunities and various treasures, it also contained the main ingredients to refine foundation establishment elixirs. And having obtained rare opportunities and precious treasures inside, one could exchange them for foundation establishment elixirs with the immortal sects. Hearing this, Lu Changxing immediately knew. The Lu family's visit to the Purple Shadow secret realm this time was for the foundation establishment elixirs. After all, the situation for the Lu family right now was not optimistic. A new foundation establishment great cultivator was urgently needed. If we can obtain a foundation establishment elixir, and with the Lu family strength, collect a few foundation establishment spiritual objects, perhaps our Lu family could give birth to a new foundation establishment great cultivator. Did the eldest miss go to the Purple Shadow secret realm? Lu Changxing couldn't help but ask. Lu Miaoge was at the 7th level energy refinement and was considered one of the elites of the Lu family's younger generation. The Purple Shadow secret realm is very dangerous. Sister Miaoge is a talisman master, so naturally, the family wouldn't let her go. This time, Uncle Yuan Shan took my brothers Miaokuan and Miaofa with him, Lu Miaoyan spoke out. This wasn't a secret, and as a direct descendant of the Lu family, she was also aware of some of these matters. Lu Changxing nodded in understanding. He was aware of Lu Yuanshan, a senior member of the Lu family with the strength of 9th level energy refinement. As for Lu Miaokuan and Lu Miaofa, he wasn't too clear about them, but estimated that they also held the power of around the 6th or 7th level energy refinement. Who knows whether the Lu family will gain anything from the Purple Shadow secret realm, Lu Changxing thought inwardly. He still hoped that the Lu family would gain something from it, to obtain a foundation establishment elixir. After all, if the Lu family could have a new foundation establishment great cultivator, he wouldn't have to worry about the Lu family ancestors' affairs anymore, and the idea of escaping. Although he had met the Lu family ancestor once before, he felt that the ancestor didn't seem like someone on the verge of death. But in this time, he had also heard rumors to that effect. He knew that when Yuningrong had said the Lu family ancestor wouldn't live past 10 years, it wasn't unfounded. Foundation establishment elixir, foundation establishment is an eventual step for me as well, even if I cultivate the 7 luminaries great freedom sword scripture and the 100 refinements treasure body art, and have 2 foundation establishment spiritual objects, my chances of foundation establishment are still not high, probably just about 60 to 70%. But the foundation establishment elixirs are basically monopolized by the major immortal sects, only occasionally available, and once they are made available, they are usually contended for by other powers, making it very hard for loose cultivators to acquire one. Lu Changxing also couldn't help but think about his own future. Though he was cultivating 2 orthodox level cultivation techniques, the 100 refinements treasure body technique and the 7 luminaries great freedom sword scripture, and relying on foundation establishment spiritual objects for a 60 to 70% chance of foundation establishment, to Lu Changxing, this probability was still too low. He absolutely required a foundation establishment elixir for a sure breakthrough. Otherwise, the risk of attempting foundation establishment was simply too great. If the attempt failed, the lightest consequence would be injury and regression of cultivation, and at worst, the meridians might sustain damage, turning one into a wasted individual, or it could even result in direct death. Without at least 90% confidence, and assurances that he wouldn't die if he failed to establish his foundation, Lu Changxing wouldn't risk it. With a system by his side, he must remain as steady as an old dog. I obviously can't go to a place like the Purple Shadow's secret realm. I wonder if the system could draw out some garbage elixirs, and grant me a foundation establishment elixir, if there was a supreme foundation establishment elixir by the system, and then I find another physical body-oriented foundation establishment spiritual object, and my spiritual root gets an upgrade, advancing from lower grade to middle grade, then my success in foundation establishment would be practically guaranteed. Lu Changxing thought inwardly. He was really looking forward to the system granting him a foundation establishment elixir before he prepared for it. That way, he wouldn't have to worry about foundation establishment anymore. Chapter 183, System Panel Activation. Lottery. One time flew by, and more than 3 months passed. On this day, Lu Changxing's 59th child was born. This child possessed a spiritual root. Not long ago, a child born to Xiao Yuyao also possessed an 8th grade spiritual root. This moment marked the total number of Lu Changxing's children with spiritual roots reaching 10. At the same time, 2 system notification sounds rang out. Congratulations to the host for giving birth to 10 children with spiritual roots. You have earned 1 lottery draw. The host now has a total of 50 children, with 10 possessing spiritual roots, and the system panel has been unlocked. System panel? Lu Changxing was not surprised by the first system notification. But upon seeing the second notification from the system, he couldn't help but feel surprised and bewildered. He didn't expect that aside from receiving the customary child money from the system, he would also unlock a system panel. Isn't the system panel something that should be available as soon as the system is activated? Why is it only unlocking now for me and even requires prerequisites? Lu Changxing wondered aloud. But he didn't dwell on it too much. It might be that the author initially forgot and only thought to add it later on. Lu Changxing silently called system panel in his mind and opened his system panel. Name, Lu Changxing. Status, son-in-law of the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain. Cultivation level, 7th level energy refinement. Lifespan, 25/163. Talent, 7th grade spiritual root. Cultivation technique, Immortal beauty technique. 100 refinements treasure body art. 7 luminaries great freedom sword scripture. Spells, flame bullet technique. Wind control skill, object manipulating technique. Aura concealment technique. Spiritual eye technique. Sound transmitting technique. Skills, talisman making, 2nd rank. Puppetry, 2nd rank. Spiritual pets, 9 netherhound. Peach blossom goo. Items, golden light brick talisman treasure. Peach blossom goo. Black dragon magical bead. Book of malevolent curses and fates. Children, 5966. View details. At once, a straightforward interface appeared. It allowed Lu Changxing to see his situation and information at a glance. My lifespan is only 163 years. Lu Changxing looked at the lifespan column. He had previously thought that after consuming the lifespan extension pill, which added 50 years, he had a lifespan of 170 years. It turned out to be only 163 years. It seems that I am not quite the person of prolonged lifespan and good health. Lu Changxing didn't concern himself with those few years of lifespan and looked towards the bottom row of the interface, where his children were listed. With a slight intent of his mental spirit, the interface before him changed. The faces and names of his children appeared on the screen. Lu Pingan, Lu Wuyu, Lu Wuyo, Lu Shila, Lu Xianji, Lu Chuanjin. Looking at his many children, even he, who was quite young himself, was somewhat unable to recognize who was who. Then, Lu Changxing clicked on the portrait of Lu Pingan to check his details. Name, Lu Pingon, lifespan, 681st, talent, none, cultivation level, none, 81 years, Lu Changxing reviewed the simple information of his son, Lu Pingon. The lifespan was the only detail that caught his slight attention. In the mortal world, living to the age of 60 or 70 years old would already be considered a long life. 81 years was quite an advanced age. Moreover, if Lu Pingon were to practice martial arts and pay attention to maintaining good health, his lifespan could probably increase. After that, he checked the attributes of a few other children. They were similar to Lu Pingon, with only minor differences in lifespan. In terms of talents and abilities, all were indicated as none. At this moment, Lu Changxing clicked to view the profile of his son, Lu Xianji. Name, Lu Xianji, lifespan, 679th, talent, 9th grade spiritual root, cultivation level, none. So it means that with this system panel, not only can I clearly see my own information and situation, but I can also see the lifespan, talent, and strength of my children. Lu Changxing had more or less figured out the use of this system panel. It allowed him to not only see his own clear situation, but also to check his children's lifespan, talent, and strength at any time. After glancing over several children's panels, Lu Changxing didn't look any further. At this stage, the information on the children's panels was much the same. There wasn't much else to see. System, draw a lottery. Then, Lu Changxing silently commanded, ready to proceed with the draw. A pale red virtual lottery wheel appeared. Begin the lottery. Lu Changxing looked at the lottery wheel and declared. Having participated in many draws, and with the most desired cultivation techniques already in hand, he was quite calm about the lottery now. After all, not having expectations can lead to pleasant surprises, while holding on to hopes often invites disappointment. The wheel sparkled with golden light and spun rapidly. Later, it gradually slowed down and finally stopped on other. Ding! Congratulations to the host for winning a life-substituting talisman. The prize has been sent to the system space. The host can check it anytime. A talisman design emerged from the big wheel, accompanied by a notification sound from the system. Life-substituting talisman? A talisman? Lu Changxing looked at the prize before him and raised an eyebrow. He didn't expect the system lottery to come up with a single talisman. This single talisman seemed a bit underwhelming in his eyes. It didn't quite match the previous principle of system products, must be fine quality. Lu Changxing directed his mental spirit towards the golden talisman in the system space. Information emerged on it. Talisman, life-substituting talisman, rank, 4th rank, description. The talisman connects with the soul to offer protection from harm and the power to escape through space. 4th rank talisman. Lu Changxing was startled to see the rank of this life-substituting talisman. Just a moment ago, he felt that it was somewhat underwhelming to receive only one talisman from the system lottery. But unexpectedly, it was a 4th rank talisman. As far as Lu Changxing knew, in the cultivation world, even 2nd rank supreme talismans were already extremely rare. A 3rd rank talisman was considered a strategic level resource that money couldn't easily buy. Chapter 184, System Panel Activation. Lottery. Rarely does it appear on the market. As for 4th rank talismans, he had never even heard of them. Or rather, whether anyone in Jiang country could draw a 4th rank talisman was still a question. After all, it was exceedingly rare to find a 2nd rank talisman master. A 3rd rank talisman master, even in the whole of Jiang country, was as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Going to places like Heavenly Sword Sect or Qingyun Sect, they could serve as guest elders. However, although this life-substitute talisman seems powerful with the ability to substitute one's fate and block evil, I'm not necessarily able to use a 4th rank talisman. Lu Changxing frowned slightly as he looked at the talisman before him. The description of this life-substitute talisman was naturally formidable. It could replace someone in facing death and teleport them thousands of miles away. It was an exceedingly rare, life-saving talisman. But activating talismans, unlike talisman treasures or the Book of Malevolent Curses and Fates, required the expenditure of one's own spiritual power and mental spirit. With his current cultivation level, he could at most use second-rank talismans. He was simply incapable of employing a fourth-rank talisman. But this was a problem I foresaw long ago, Lu Changxing said. My cultivation is too low at the moment and the ceiling for the system's prizes tends to be rather high. Just like when I drew magical treasures from the lottery, if I didn't have the 100 refinements treasure body art, I'd just be collecting dust. He let out a sigh, not dwelling on it further. He retrieved the life substitute talisman from the system space. Immediately, a talisman looking like it was woven from golden silkworm threads, with profound symbolic lines, appeared in Lu Changsheng's hand. At the same time, detailed information about the talisman entered Lu Changsheng's mind. His eyes revealed an immediate look of surprise. The life substitute talisman, a fourth-rank superior grade talisman. You must drip blood from between your eyebrows and from over your heart onto the talisman, then connect it to your own flesh and soul. When facing a fatal attack or upon death, the life substitute talisman will automatically activate, taking on the death-dealing blow in your stead, and randomly teleporting you thousands of miles away. This talisman only requires prior usage to link with one's soul. It doesn't consume any mental spirit or mana to activate. Which means, even with his current Qi refinement realm capabilities, he could use it. Truly a system product, a fourth-rank talisman is indeed a fine item. An excited feeling surged within Lu Changxing. He had just thought he would not be able to use this fourth-rank talisman. With this life substitute talisman, as long as I don't meet a nascent soul true lord, even if I face a nascent soul immortal, I can escape with my life. His heart swelled with joy. Lu Changxing had many methods at his disposal now, but his strength was ultimately too limited. Even facing a foundation-building great cultivator posed a danger. But now with this fourth-rank life substitute talisman, he had an added layer of assurance. He could preserve his life and escape even against foundation establishment great cultivators and nascent soul immortals. As for nascent soul true lords, Lu Changxing dared not claim certainty. Then, Lu Changxing examined the golden talisman in his hand, 1 inch wide and 3 inches long, trying to discern any clues from it. Is this what a fourth-rank talisman looks like? I actually can't even tell what material was used for the talisman paper, nor can I understand any of the patterns of the rune lines drawn on it. He mused after a while. He was hoping that with his second-rank talisman-making skill, he might be able to glean something from this fourth-rank talisman, attempt to create a life-saving talisman with a similar effect. After all, many exclusive talismans have been researched this way. He acquired second-rank talisman-making skill not just for the experience, but it also included all the common basic talismans. However, this did not cover those rare and exclusive paths of talisman lore. But after a while, Lu Changxing understood he was overthinking it. His second-rank talisman-making skill was completely outclassed by this fourth-rank talisman, as if an elementary school student were trying to understand advanced mathematics. It was completely beyond him. To glean something from it was far too difficult. Fourth-rank talismans are too profound. If it were a third-rank talisman, perhaps I could make something out of it. Lu Changxing gave up the idea of contemplation and study. Touching the spot between his eyebrows and then his chest, he forced out a drop of blood from his brow and from his heart, and applied it directly to the life substitute talisman in his hand. Instantly, after absorbing the 2 drops of blood, the life substitute talisman abruptly lifted into the air, igniting without fire. It transformed into a golden figurine and shot into Lu Changsheng's brow. An enigmatic pulsation washed over him. Though it soon dissipated. Is it done? Lu Changxing was startled. He hadn't expected that using a fourth-rank talisman would be so fast. With his eyes closed and looking inward, he immediately saw the golden figure the life substitute talisman had become within the sea of consciousness at his brow. That golden figure sat motionless, seeming to contain a boundless and majestic power and was somehow connected to him in the unseen depths, binding his flesh and soul. In moments of lethal danger, it could serve as a safeguard. The life substitute talisman is miraculous indeed, worthy of a fourth-rank talisman. It completely transcends my current understanding of the talisman path. Lu Changxing observed the life substitute talisman in his sea of consciousness, uttering a sigh of emotion. After finishing a round of lottery, Lu Changxing remembered he had been back on Qingzhou Mountain for almost half a year. He had nearly exhausted materials for making the 100 refinements treasure body technique and elixir medicines for cultivation, necessitating replenishment. Besides, 3 of his children were born in 9 Dragons Market, and it was time to pay the marketplace a visit. He told his wives and concubines, then mounted the iron feather eagle and left. 2 days later, Lu Changxing arrived at 9 Dragons Market. Chapter 185, System Panel Activation. Lottery. After purchasing a batch of materials and elixir medicines in the marketplace, Lu Changxing also stayed casually in 9 Dragons Market for 2 days. During these 2 days, Lu Changxing visited Lu Miaoga in the spiritual talisman shop for a chat. He also took the opportunity to catch up with Yu Maocheng and Gao He. 2 days later, Lu Changxing rode the iron feather eagle back to Qingzhou Mountain. As for the child, Lu Changxing did not bring him. Mainly because it was really inconvenient to ride the iron feather eagle while holding the child. If there were any accidents, that would be even more problematic. So, he temporarily left the child in 9 Dragons Market, under the good care of a maid. Shortly after leaving the marketplace, Lu Changxing suddenly sensed fluctuations from a magical battle coming from the side. He saw 3 streams of escape light entangled with each other, fighting incessantly. Xiaolong. Lu Changxing looked at the cultivator in the lead, who was controlling a cloudy magic artifact and quickly escaping, and couldn't help but raise his eyebrow. This cultivator was his neighbor, Xiaolong brother. If you are willing to hand over the opportunity from within the Purple Shadow secret realm, in consideration of our past friendship, I can spare your life, said an elder while attacking Xiaolong with a hammer-shaped magic artifact. With him was a young man. This young man was holding a stack of talismans, continually activating them, bombarding Xiaolong chaotically, and restraining him. Lu Changxing could tell that the elder should be in the energy refinement late stage, while the young man was only in the middle stage. Under the attack of the two, Xiaolong appeared pale, with wounds on his body, only able to continuously fending off the assaults of the two while escaping towards 9 Dragons Marketplace. To save or not to save? Upon seeing this scene, Lu Changxing's brows furrowed slightly. Although he knew Xiaolong, his relationship with this neighbor was mediocre. They barely had any interaction beyond nodding acquaintances and some business dealings. Lu Daoist, Xia has been ambushed by these two, please lend your assistance. I will definitely reward you handsomely after this. At this moment, the pale-faced Xiaolong, who was rapidly escaping, also saw Lu Changxing. Seeing him like spotting a life-saving straw, he immediately shouted out for help. Fellow Daoist, please do not meddle in others' affairs. The elder, seeing Xiaolong calling for Lu Changxing's help, immediately spoke in a stern voice. Oh. Today, I think I will meddle in this affair. Lu Changxing initially hesitated about getting involved, contemplating taking advantage of the situation. But upon seeing the elder, he decided that he was going to intervene. Because he somewhat recognized this elder, who was the shop owner of a spiritual talisman store called Little Symbol Hall. When he first arrived at 9 Dragons Market, he had been looking for a spiritual talisman shop to sell his talismans. He had sold talismans twice at Little Symbol Hall, and after the second sale, the other party tracked him with marked spirit stones. All these incidents, Lu Changxing remembered them well. Now in this situation, he felt no psychological burden to act. No sooner had he spoken, Lu Changxing slapped his storage bag, and the green-faced sword was unsheathed. Turning into a stream of green-gold light, the radiance of the sword surged as it flew slashing towards the middle-stage young man. Songer, be careful. The elder, seeing the sharp flying sword suddenly attacking, immediately shouted a warning. Knowing his grandson was in danger from this unanticipated strike, he activated a talisman, which turned into a layer of azure light shield, enveloping the young man. Thank you, Lu Daoist. Xiao Long also saw Lu Changsheng's intervention. His expression instantly became one of relief, and then turned fierce as he stopped fleeing. A green talisman appeared in his hand, which he used on himself to temporarily stop the bleeding. He then commanded his magic artifact, attacking the elder at the energy refinement late stage. Clang! The green-faced sword struck the light shield surrounding the young man, immediately darkening its spiritual light and covering it with dense cracks. However, at the same moment, Lu Changsheng released 2 talismans from his hand. Superior grade talismans, Thunder Summoning Talisman. Boom! Boom! The 2 talismans erupted with purple lightning, turning into 2 ferocious thunderbolts, striking at the young man and the elder. Under the onslaught of the Thunder Summoning Talismans, the already fragile azure light shield shattered instantly. But in that instant, the young man's magical robe fluttered loudly, letting out a thunderous roar. Another layer of aqua blue and emerald light shields instantly emerged, covering his body, fending off the Thunder Talisman's attack. Well, looks like he's quite wealthy, remarked Lu Changsheng, somewhat surprised. He had not expected the young man to have 2 protective magic artifacts on him. But reflecting on it, it made sense, as the elder owned a spiritual talisman shop. Even if it was just a small shop, its wealth was incomparable to that of an average cultivator. With a thought, he focused his mental spirit and had the green-faced sword's radiance continue its surge with relentless sword chi, attacking the young man. Seeing this, the young man brought out an umbrella-shaped magic artifact to confront and defend against the green-faced sword, fending off its brilliance. The robe on his body continued to flutter and spread out aqua blue light, resisting the remaining waves of sword chi emitted by the green-faced sword. Sigh, if I want a quick battle, I'll have to rely on Talisman C tactics. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng knew that without revealing all his capabilities, it wouldn't be easy to end the battle swiftly. He then took out more than 10 middle-grade talismans and activated them directly. The talismans instantly transformed into clouds of fire, frost, and wind blades, rushing maniacally towards the young man. Grandfather, save me! The young man was no match for Lu Changsheng, and now, seeing Lu Changsheng use so many talismans, his complexion drastically changed as he cried out to the elder. Meanwhile, he extended his umbrella-shaped magic artifact in front of himself, rotating it to spread a faint glimmer, reluctantly bringing out a superior grade talisman and activating it, causing a golden light shield to appear around him to withstand Lu Changsheng's talisman assault. Songer, retreat. Chapter 186, System Panel Activation. Lottery. For the elder who was entangled with Xiao Long saw this scene and his face also turned ugly. He knew that if they continued to fight, neither he nor his grandson were matches for Xiao Long and Lu Changsheng. He had no choice but to abandon the easy prey and gestured to his grandson to retreat quickly. Think you can escape? Too late. As Lu Changsheng saw the two trying to flee, he spurred the green-faced sword into action and also took out 2 superior-grade talismans, directing them to kill the young man. After all, since he had already taken action, how could he possibly let them get away? If he let them get away, wouldn't he still have to worry about being targeted for revenge later on? Superior-grade talisman, Thunder Summoning Talisman. Superior-grade talisman, Binding Body Talisman. At the same time, a golden fierce sword light burst forth from his fingertips. 7 luminaries sword light. Facing Lu Changsheng's flying sword assault, as well as over a dozen middle-grade talismans, the young man was already struggling to defend and could barely hold on using his talisman magic artifacts. Now the Thunder Summoning Talisman and Binding Body Talisman struck, directly blasting his shield magic artifact hovering in the void and shattering the protective light shield around him, leaving him bound in place. Spurt. Spurt. The green-faced sword and 7 luminaries sword light, upon breaking through the light shield, decapitated the young man and pierced through his chest. Songer. The elder, who was preparing to flee, saw his grandson killed and his eyes instantly reddened and cracked with fury. I'm going to fight you with everything I've got. With eyes red with rage, the elder glared at Lu Changxing and pulled out a dull, pigeon egg-sized orb from his storage bag, flinging it towards Lu Changxing. At the same time, he activated several talismans and formed hand seals for the spiritual art, unleashing a set of flying needle magical instruments to attack Lu Changxing. Lu Daoist, be careful, that orb contains a Yin Thunder Child. As soon as Xia Long saw the gray orb, he immediately shouted a warning. He immediately formed hand seals for the spiritual art and took control of his magic artifact to kill the elder, trying to seize the opportunity to finish him off. Yin Thunder Child. Lu Changxing was startled when he heard this. The Yin Thunder Child was similar to the Heavenly Thunder Pearl, a one-time treasure. Though not as powerful as the Heavenly Thunder Pearl, it was comparable to a strike from someone at the Foundation establishment stage. He quickly took out 3 golden light barrier talismans and a supreme talisman, stacking 3 layers of defense for himself and the iron feather eagle, covered with streams of golden light. Damn it! The elder was not only furious but also felt utterly aggrieved when he saw Lu Changxing using the talismans in such a manner. He knew with this setup, even the Yin Thunder Child wouldn't be able to kill Lu Changxing. If the fight continued, judging by the methods Lu Changxing had shown, only the elder himself would end up dead. Cough cough. You killed my grandson, I swear this vendetta will not rest. One day I will make you pay with blood for this debt of blood. The elder's eyes shone with hatred, and he roared in a hoarse voice. Immediately, he used the flying needle magical instrument to detonate the Yin Thunder Child mixed within the orb, trying to take the chance to escape. Boom! In the sky, a terrifyingly violent black thunder light erupted. It unleashed waves of terrifying and wild aftershocks. Boom boom boom. Under the terrifying onslaught of the aftershocks from the Yin Thunder Child, 2 layers of Lu Changxing's golden light barrier talismans were directly breached. Although he was unharmed, the iron feather eagle under his feet cried out in panic, flapping its wings wildly and causing Lu Changxing to become unstable. Every time there's a fight, it's always like this. Seeing the state of the iron feather eagle, Lu Changxing frowned, knowing that once again the eagle was in a state of shock. He immediately took out a flying artifact from his storage bag and dismounted the iron feather eagle to stand on the flying artifact. He then looked towards the fleeing elder, wanting to pursue and eradicate him completely. Cough cough cough. Meanwhile, Xia Long, who had just been blasted by the aftershocks of the Yin Thunder Child's explosion, was wounded and bloodied, his breath weak. His whole body was tottering in the air, looking like he might fall off his magic artifact at any moment. Xia Daoist. Lu Changxing glanced at him. Lu Daoist, I'm fine. Xia Long coughed twice and weakly waved his hand to indicate he was all right. Seeing this, Lu Changxing nodded and rode the flying artifact, manifesting the 7 luminaries sword escape, transforming into a streak of escape light that shot out, chasing after the elder. With the elder in sight, Lu Changxing no longer hid his cultivation level. He drove the green-faced sword with all his might, causing the sword to gleam brightly and emit the sound of dragons and cranes, sealing off the elder's path of escape. At the same time, 2 talismans appeared in his hand. Superior Grade Talisman, Soul-Shaking Talisman. Supreme Talisman, Thunder Talisman. What? Facing the fierce attack of the green-faced sword, the elder was severely shocked and attempted to defend using his magic artifact. But immediately following that, the sudden effect of the soul-shaking talisman caused his mental spirit to falter, his brain momentarily went blank, and his movements halted. However, he had a magic artifact on him that quickly cleared his mind and restored his senses. But just as he was regaining his senses, he saw an overwhelming and violent torrent of endless thunder light, like a thunder dragon, rolling towards him. No! The elder, seeing the approaching thunder light, had no choice but to desperately activate his spiritual energy shield and protective magic artifact. The next moment, the endless thunder light engulfed the elder. Then, the thunder light vanished. While the elder was not yet dead, his body was scorched black, he was spitting blood, and he wobbled on the verge of falling. Spurt. With a cold flash, the green-faced sword radiated a fierce and domineering light, severing the old man's body in two. Chapter 187, The Heavenly Longevity Technique, Great Dream Immortal City. _1, if I didn't use talisman treasures or talismans, relying solely on my own strength, it wouldn't be so simple to kill a cultivator at the energy refinement late stage. Lu Changxing gazed at the elderly man he had slain, feeling an immense calm within. Pfft! A flame bullet technique manifested in his palm and shot towards the elder's charred body, burning the corpse to ashes. Lu Changxing then reached out with a large hand, and his spiritual force palm collected the old man's storage bag into his own possession. When Lu Changxing returned to his original spot, he saw Xia Long was no longer in the air, having descended to the ground to rest. He was already severely injured before, relying on a secret technique to suppress his wounds. But the attack from Yin Thunder Child caused all his severe injuries to erupt, becoming even more critical. His entire body was emanating an air of death, giving off the impression of a lamp running out of oil. Cough cough cough, thank you, Lu Daoist, for saving my life, please accept Xia's bow. Xia Long sat on the ground, coughing up black blood and slightly bowing to Lu Changxing as a gesture of thanks. Then, with trembling hands, he took out 2 storage bags from his garment and said, Lu Daoist, now that I am on the verge of death, what I cannot let go of the most are my children in the mortal world. If possible, I hope Lu Daoist can take care of my son. This is all my wealth, including a foundation establishment spirit object and chances I've obtained from the Purple Shadow Secret Realm. Take them as your reward. Xia Long handed over the storage bags to Lu Changxing, speaking in a feeble tone. He was very clear about his present condition, teetering on the brink of death. Unless there was a precious elixir or a medical expert to prolong his life. But now, with neither condition feasible, there was only the road to death. He even worried whether Lu Changxing might covet his wealth. It would be better to offer everything he had on his person of his own volition. To beseech Lu Changxing to look after his children. Although he wasn't very familiar with Lu Changxing. They had only had sporadic contact and a few dealings in the past. However, based on their interactions and Lu Changxing's timely assistance, Xia Long felt that he was a decent person, righteous in character. Take care of your children. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing's brow furrowed slightly. He had previously heard from Xia Long that he had a family in the mortal world, including a pair of children. He had fought so hard, hunting demon beasts and exploring ancient ruins not only to seek a chance at foundation establishment but also to pave the way for his son. Unexpectedly, facing death, Xia Long was still preoccupied with his children. Ah, what trouble you've brought upon yourself, Xia Daoist. Lu Changxing sighed softly. In his view, if Xia Long hadn't been so desperate, given his cultivation level, he would surely have led a more than comfortable life. If Lu Daoist is unwilling, then let it be. Consider these things a token of gratitude for saving my life. The pale Xia Long said with bitterness in his voice. Ah, the love of a parent is indeed hard to fathom. Looking at the once resolute and steady Xia Long, who was now pale and pitiful with eyes filled with pleading, Lu Changxing sighed again. The dying request of a Daoist, it's hard for Lu to refuse. But Lu himself is in a situation, as you know, Xia brother, where I truly have no time to care for others. I can only deliver your ashes back home. If you have any last words or instructions, I can pass them on for you. Lu Changxing spoke. He himself had many children to support and take care of. Where would he find the time to look after another person's children? Moreover, he remembered Xia Long mentioning that his children were not that young anymore. Thank you, Lu Daoist. Xia Long, upon hearing this, felt somewhat dejected. But he also understood that this was human nature. For Lu Changxing to be willing to do this was already more than enough. He immediately began to arrange his affairs. He told Lu Changxing about his family in the mortal world and the matters he wanted to pass on. He also mentioned that in the house he rented in the Nine Dragons Market, there was a set of a first-grade superior 5-element formation called Heavenly Canopy 5 Elements Formation, which could trap enemies and block qi. Lu Changxing could take it when the time came. Underneath the small tree in the courtyard, another storage bag was buried, containing 300 spirit stones for emergencies. He hoped that these spirit stones could be delivered to his son by Lu Changxing. After concluding his final instructions, Xia Long seemed to deflate, closed his eyes, and collapsed powerlessly to the ground. Xia brother, rest easy. I will give the spirit stones to your son. Lu Changxing looked at Xia Long's body in front of him and sighed softly. A gentleman loves money but obtains it in a proper way. He didn't see himself as a paragon of virtue. But in this situation, for these 300 spirit stones, he was still willing to send them back. Just then, Xia Long's eyes opened slightly. With a frail voice, he whispered, "My daughter is also of age to be in the bridal chamber. If Lu Daoist is interested, you may take her as a concubine." Having spoken his last, he finally breathed no more. This Xia Daoist really devoted himself to laying out a path for his son. Even at the moment of death, his heart was more preoccupied with his son, thinking of marrying his daughter to me, also in the hopes that I would look after her. Lu Changxing looked at Xia Long, shaking his head and speaking with emotion. Xia Long indeed had a pair of children, but in his final instructions, the focus was mainly on his son. He mentioned that his son would turn 12 next year, hoping to be accepted into an immortal sect. He wanted Lu Changxing to pass on certain instructions on his behalf, and even this last statement, in Lu Changxing's view, was for the sake of his son. These sorts of matters were not for Lu Changxing to judge or comment on. Looking at Xia Long's body, once sure he was dead, Lu Changxing cast a flame bullet technique, reducing Xia Long to ashes. Then he took out a jade box, slightly raised his hand, and gathered the ashes into the box. Just now Xia Long mentioned the Purple Shadow secret realm. He was coming from there when he encountered treachery. A spirit plant that can be called a treasure of heaven and earth must at least be a third-rank spirit plant. To sustain such a plant, it must at least be planted above a second-grade spirit vein. And if one wishes to cultivate a third-rank spirit plant to perfection, to draw the essence of heaven and earth, endless vitality, then it must be planted in a land with a third-rank spirit vein. Moreover, once the spirit plant is planted, in order to cultivate the heaven and earth longevity technique, the cultivator cannot stray too far from the plant, effectively being bound to one place. Even if one meets these harsh conditions and cultivates the heaven and earth longevity technique, it also incredibly limited. Because the heaven and earth longevity technique is solely for the purpose of cultivation longevity, forsaking all offensive and defensive capabilities. All mana is used for nurturing the flesh and soul, leaving oneself without any combat ability. Even if one breaks through to the core formation stage, combat ability would only be comparable to the foundation establishment stage, and after breaking through to the nascent soul stage, it would only be comparable to the core formation stage. Lu Changxing looked at the recorded technique within the jade slip and couldn't help but shake his head. This technique was truly against the heavens. It allowed one to ignore the quality of their spiritual roots and cultivate to the nascent soul stage without any bottlenecks. And the lifespan is double that of peers at the same realm. But the conditions for cultivation were also extremely harsh. And its flaw was very apparent. Once cultivated, there would be no spells or abilities to protect oneself. On the path of cultivation, there are countless hardships. If there is no divine protection or skills for battle, what use is a longer life? Sooner or later, it will end with both body and path perishing. This heaven and earth longevity technique is only suitable for the powerful and their kin within the cultivation world, who have protection, do not need to fight with others, and can live peacefully in their own haven. Otherwise, for ordinary cultivators, this method's harsh conditions alone are enough to make one give up, let alone achieve successful cultivation. Lu Changxing exclaimed aloud. But the next moment, Lu Changxing's brow furrowed as if he'd thought of something. Although the heaven and earth longevity technique is not suitable for me, it's quite suitable for the likes of Jinjin and Miaoyun, even the children like Xiaoqi, who could cultivate this heaven and earth longevity technique in the future. As long as I become a nascent soul immortal or a nascent soul true lord, I can provide such conditions for cultivation, offer them a pure land, and let them practice the heaven and earth longevity technique. Lu Changxing suddenly thought to himself. For himself, with the backing of a system, Lu Changxing was confident that his future cultivation would be unhindered. But for his wives and children, it was difficult. Chu Zhenjin, with an 8th grade spiritual root, had taken many years just to break through to the 2nd level of energy refinement. Lu Miaoyun, although she had a 7th grade spiritual root and was at the 4th level of energy refinement when she married him. But because of childbirth and taking care of the children, her cultivation progressed very slowly. She is still at the peak of the 4th level of energy refinement. She had almost given up on cultivation. As for Lu Xianji, Lu Chuanjin, and the other children, they had spiritual roots, but all were lower-grade spiritual roots. Lu Changxing did not believe that he had the ability to nurture all these children, so they could establish foundation and form their cores in the future. Now seeing this heaven and earth longevity technique, he felt that once he had the conditions, he could definitely let his wives and daughters cultivate this technique. It would make their cultivation path much simpler in the future. And he didn't need his wives and children to fight in battles. This matter is still too far off for me right now. I must at least become a core formation true monarch and possess a land with my own spirit vein. Lu Changxing took a deep breath and let it out, refusing to think further on this matter. Chapter 189, The Heavenly Longevity Technique, Great Dream Immortal City. Thinking about this now is still too early. However, the Heavenly Longevity Technique added an urgency to his cultivation practice. Then, Lu Changxing continued to sort through the 3 people's storage bags. After a long while, the storage bags of the 3 were sorted. There were 1,256 spirit stones. 1 piece of physical foundation establishment spiritual object. 1 top-grade magic artifact. 4 high-grade magic artifacts. 7 middle-grade magic artifacts. 1 second-grade middle-class puppet. 3 second-grade lower-class puppets. Over 100 talismans. Various elixir medicines. A number of spirit plants and spiritual medicines. Xiao Long and the owner of this small talisman shop must have gone to explore the secret realm, exchanging all their spirit stones for elixir medicines, talismans, or treasures like the Lockhart goo. As a result, they didn't carry many spirit stones on them. However, these magic artifacts, talismans, puppets, and spirit plant materials should be worth a few thousand spirit stones. After sorting through their belongings, Lu Changxing held a brocade box and said. Inside the brocade box was a fist-sized, bright red fruit with blood-red patterns flowing on it, which was quite mysterious. And with this blood-yang fruit, a foundation establishment spiritual object that helps break through the 3rd barrier of foundation establishment, blood-chi barrier. I also gathered all the foundation establishment spiritual objects required for the 3 barriers of foundation establishment. It's just a pity that I don't have the main ingredient for the foundation establishment elixir, the heavenly spirit fruit, otherwise my foundation establishment elixir would have been settled. Lu Changxing thought to himself. Previously, he had learned about the foundation establishment elixir. Thinking that he might be able to refine it if he advances to 2nd rank in alchemy in the future. But after understanding more, he realized he was being overly optimistic. The difficulty of refining the foundation establishment elixir was one thing. The hardest part was gathering the materials for the elixir, especially the main ingredient, the heavenly spirit fruit. This heavenly spirit fruit is only consistently produced within the purple shadow secret realm. It's very rare elsewhere. This is also why the purple shadow secret realm is controlled by the major immortal sects. Foundation establishment elixirs seldom make it to the outside world. Soon after, Lu Changxing took a short break to allow the iron feather eagle to recover, and then he rode it back to the 9 Dragons Market. He planned to clean out Xiao Long's belongings. This time, he didn't use his real appearance but disguised himself as an ordinary-looking, simple-minded young man. Following Xiao Long's instructions on the formation, Lu Changxing entered Xiao Long's home and dismantled the heavenly canopy 5 elements formation in his yard. This high-grade formation was also worth over 1,000 spirit stones. Then, according to Xiao Long's words, he dug out another storage bag from beneath a tree in the yard. It contained 300 spirit stones. Lu Changxing also took a look around the house. He collected a few of Xiao Long's belongings as keepsakes for his wives and children. After finishing up, Lu Changxing left the 9-dragon square. He didn't immediately go to Xiao Long's mortal family. Instead, he went home first. His 60th child was due in about half a month. 2 days later, Lu Changxing returned to Qingzhou Mountain without any issues. After chatting with Lu Miaoyun, Lu Changxing learned that Lu Yuanshan, who was sent by the Lu family to the Purple Shadow Secret Realm, had returned. But he came back missing an arm. Of the 2 Lu family disciples who went with him, only Lu Miaoquan returned. Lu Miaofa did not return, having fallen in the Purple Shadow Secret Realm. As for the gains in the Purple Shadow Secret Realm, Lu Miaoyun didn't know either. If Lu Yuanshan didn't acquire the heavenly spirit fruit in the Purple Shadow Secret Realm, then this would be a substantial loss for the Lu family, Lu Changxing thought upon hearing this news. A cultivator like Lu Yuanshan, once missing an arm, would see a significant decrease in combat capability. And with a damaged body, impacting his foundation establishment chances, had likely have no future prospects of achieving foundation establishment. And an elite scion like Lu Miaofa, such talents are few within the entire Lu family. They are the core of the family's combat strength and the seedlings for foundation establishment. Each loss represented a great loss for the Lu family. About these matters, Lu Changxing didn't dwell on them too much. This sort of thing is not up to him to concern himself with or worry about. He was simply watching to see if the Lu family would have any new foundation-building great cultivators emerge within the next 2 years. If not, it would indicate that Lu Yuanshan probably didn't harvest much in the Purple Shadow Secret Realm. Or to put it another way, the cultivators the Lu family was preparing to advance to foundation establishment had failed to break through. A few years from now, the chances of a new foundation-building great cultivator emerging would also be slim. Meanwhile, on the northern boundary of Jiang Country, Great Dream Marsh. Above the endless waters, a pretty girl in a purple dress was maneuvering a flying artifact, and then suddenly stopped. In front of her was a small island, on top of which stood a towering and majestic city, brimming with spiritual light. The city walls stretch beyond sight, only through the spiritual light can one faintly see the circles of walls within, and buildings that resemble mountains. Around the city gates, numerous cultivators, some on sword flight, some on flying boats, and some riding spiritual beasts as mounts, created a dazzling scene. There were even powerful breaths flying through the sky, indicating their status as foundation-building great cultivators, causing other cultivators to consciously make way. Now that I already have the main ingredient for the foundation establishment elixir, the heavenly spirit fruit. The 2 auxiliary ingredients that I lack can be entirely purchased in this Great Dream Immortal City. Once all the materials are gathered, this Great Dream Immortal City will have a second-rank alchemist capable of refining foundation establishment elixir. Then I can have him refine the foundation establishment elixir for me. Meng Xiaochan descended from the flying artifact and walked toward the city's main entrance. On the city gate, several tens of zhang high, were the 4 large characters, Great Dream Immortal City, boldly inscribed. They involuntarily inspired a sense of simplicity and a vast, majestic aura. I've heard that this Chen Ping, the alchemist, can produce at least 1 foundation establishment elixir each time he lights the oven. Normally, he can make 2 foundation establishment elixirs, and if luck serves, even 3. Meng Xiaochan thought about how her foundation establishment elixir was soon to be secured. In that moment, an image of a handsome, upright young man appeared in her mind. When he attempts to break through to foundation establishment in the days to come, he will surely need a foundation establishment elixir too. If I give him one then, he would certainly be very pleased, wouldn't he? But what reason should I use to give him the foundation establishment elixir? As far as I know, he's quite a flirt and has many wives and concubines. If I give him the foundation establishment elixir, what am I to do if he then proposes and asks me to become his Tao companion? Meng Xiaoquan's mood suddenly became indecisive, and her cheeks bloomed with a flush. At that time, should I accept or not? If I agree straight away, wouldn't it seem too hasty and make me look undignified? Meng Xiaoquan's heart raced in that moment, like a deer in chaos, as she instinctively covered her flushed cheeks with her hands. Her mind raced with thoughts of the potential scene. And then, in the next moment, Meng Xiaoquan suddenly shook herself sharply. Fear flashed through her eyes. No, I must break through to foundation establishment as soon as possible, or else the influence of the Lockhart goo will become more severe on me. Meng Xiaoquan bit her lip, pointed a finger at her forehead, and her eyes shone with determination. Half a month later, Lu Changsheng's 60th child was born. There's no gift money? Lu Changsheng saw that the child was born without hearing about any gift money from the system, and he felt somewhat disappointed. In the past, for every 10 children born, he would get a lottery draw. But now that it was gone, he couldn't help feeling a bit let down, given his anticipation. Well, if it's gone, it's gone. After all, I had already guessed that it couldn't always be like this, relying on spending energy to have kids in order to gain the rewards. Lu Changsheng exhaled lightly, soon coming to terms with it in his heart. In this regard, he had long expected that this path of gaining rewards through childbearing would reach its limits sooner or later. And when it reached that limit, he would have to cultivate his children more and uplift himself in other ways. Since relying on having many children to farm rewards isn't viable anymore, it's about time I practiced more selective and quality breeding. Lu Changsheng pondered in his heart. In the last 3 years, he had almost directly had 40 children, more than in the previous 5 years. Aside from relying on a sea of children to hit the jackpot, Lu Changsheng didn't deny that he also liked the idea of gaming the system by breeding. Now that the difficulty of gaming rewards through children had increased, and the cost-performance ratio had decreased, Lu Changsheng felt it was also time to slow down that pace a bit. And focus on having children primarily with wives and concubines who had spiritual roots. Over the years, he was quite satisfied with the probability of children born to wives and concubines with spiritual roots inheriting them as well. This approach would also allow him more time and energy to concentrate on cultivation. After all, frequent childbearing also affected his cultivation speed to some extent. Chapter 190, Father's Friend. _1 Yunzhou, Tai'an County Town. So this is where Xia Long settled his children? Lu Changsheng gazed at the ordinary courtyard before him. Because Xia Long was often adventuring away from home, he had made some enemies. Therefore, he did not keep his children by his side. He settled them in the secular world and hired an old servant to take care of them. Thump thump thump. Lu Changsheng stepped forward and knocked on the door. Soon, the door creaked open. Young master, whom are you looking for? The door was opened by a girl dressed in a pale blue silk dress. She appeared to be about 15 or 16, with a slightly green, melon-seed face and a delicate figure, brimming with youthful vitality. Lu Changsheng immediately recognized that the girl before him possessed some cultivation. But her cultivation level was only at the second layer of qi practice. Is this Xia Long's daughter? Who would have thought Xia Long, with his thick eyebrows and large eyes, would have such a beautiful daughter? Lu Changsheng felt a slight surprise in his heart. He then smiled and said, "May I ask if this is Xia Guang's home?" Xia Long's real name was Xia Guang, and Xia Long was just an alias. "Yes, sir. Are you here to see my father for something?" the girl asked upon hearing him. "I am a friend of Xia Guang and have been entrusted by him to come here." Lu Changsheng spoke softly. "My father's friend? Hereby his entrusting." The girl paused slightly upon hearing this. She immediately invited Lu Changsheng into the courtyard. In the courtyard, there was also an old man with gray hair, dressed in a gray long robe. "Miss, who is this?" The old man saw Lu Changsheng and immediately his expression tightened, his eyes revealing a cautious look as he inquired. Lu Changsheng knew that this old man was the servant Xia Long had arranged for his children. This old servant had not cultivated but was trained in martial arts. He was a martial Dao innate master. "This young master is a friend of father's, here on father's entrustment," Xia Zizhu said clearly. "The master's friend?" The old servant still harbored a cautious look after hearing this. "Rest assured, my visit is indeed about affairs entrusted by Xia Guang," Lu Changsheng saw the old man's caution and said blandly. He lifted his hands slightly, and a ball of flame puff appeared, heating the air around them. "It turns out we're in the presence of an immortal master. My apologies for the offense, please forgive me." Seeing this skill from Lu Changsheng, the old servant no longer doubted and bowed in greeting. "I wonder what affair father has entrusted to the senior." After leading Lu Changsheng to the living room, Xia Zizhu pressed her lips together, her expression a mix of nervousness and hope. Her father seldom brought any friends home, nor had he asked friends to visit. This unexpected commission filled her with an ominous premonition. Lu Changsheng sighed softly upon seeing the girl's expression. He took out Xia Long's urn from the storage bag. Xia Long met with misfortune while competing for an opportunity outside and passed away. Before his death, he entrusted me with some affairs, asking me to inform you and your brother. Lu Changsheng spoke out loud. "How can this be?" The girl, struck as if by lightning, turned pale as her usually bright and tender face lost all color, feeling icy cold in her hands and feet. "Father." Then, with a face full of grief and sorrow, she cried out woefully and fell to the ground, powerless. "Take solace in conformity to fate." Lu Changsheng promptly supported the soft body of the girl. In his heart, he also took this as a warning. One must be more cautious in life and actions. Otherwise, in case of an unforeseen incident, the situation Xia Long found himself in would be a sobering precedent. "Father lied to me. You clearly said that after this year, you would stop adventuring and stay home to accompany me and my brother. How could you be gone?" The girl's face, filled with sorrow, presented a pitiful and tearful sight, her lips trembling. After a moment, she realized that she was somewhat uncontrolled and hastily wiped away her tears. Her face slightly flushed, she bowed gracefully to Lu Changsheng, saying, "Thank you, senior, for understanding my loss of composure." "It's all right, such emotions are natural for anyone." Lu Changsheng sighed lightly. If she hadn't shown any grief or sorrow, he wouldn't have known what to say. Seeing the girl's mood start to stabilize, Lu Changsheng began to convey Xia Long's last words and affairs. At this time, Xia Zizhu also called back her brother, Xia Zhaoyang. Xia Zhaoyang was 11 years old this year, becoming increasingly handsome. Dressed in a light green scholar's robe, he had an air of scholarly elegance. He bore a resemblance to his father, Xia Long, but they differed greatly in temperament. Lu Changsheng guessed that Xia Long had fought his way up on his journey. Therefore, he took great care to protect his son. He didn't want his son to follow his own path. Hopefully, in the future, he could enter an immortal sect and cultivate peacefully. Learning of his father's demise, Xia Zhaoyang too was deeply grieved. But his character was resolute, and he bowed in gratitude to Lu Changsheng. Then, Lu Changsheng took out a few of Xia Long's personal items, and a storage bag containing 300 spirit stones, and handed them to the siblings. "Now that Xia Long's entrusted matters are fully conveyed, I shall take my leave." Having finished explaining the matters, Lu Changsheng turned to depart. "Thank you, senior, for returning my father's belongings and ashes. Such a great kindness leaves us, brother and sister, without the means to repay. I am willing to become a servant or maid to repay this debt of gratitude to the senior." At this moment, with lips lightly pursed and eyes brimming with tears, Xia Zizhu knelt resolutely before Lu Changsheng and said, "There's no need for that, Xia Long has already compensated me for this matter," Lu Changsheng replied, reaching out to help the girl up. But she was stubborn, seemingly unwilling to rise unless Lu Changxing agreed. Now, my brother and I are all alone in this world, and it's difficult to survive. I hope, for my father's sake, you can look after my brother a bit. I am willing to serve you as a servant or maid, to labor like an ox or horse, to repay this debt of gratitude. The girl looked up at Lu Changxing with a pitiful and touching gaze. Chapter 191, Father's Friend. She was very clear in her heart that now with her father gone, she and her brother were on their own. Survival might not be jeopardized. But the future pursuit of cultivation would be extremely difficult. Although they had inherited some wealth, that wealth could also become a danger. Moreover, it was uncertain whether her father had enemies out there, since her father had entrusted their matters to the man before her, Lu Changxing. And Lu Changxing did not covet their wealth. It proved his character was trustworthy. Therefore, under such circumstances, after briefly considering it in her mind, she decided to offer herself to Lu Changxing as a servant or a maid. The man before her, Lu Changxing, was not only her father's good friend and a cultivator, but he was also reliable in character. He was also handsome and elegant like a charming young noble, causing her no discomfort and even a favorable impression. If she were to serve by Lu Changxing's side, it would not only resolve her and her brother's predicament, but also allow her to look after her brother in the future. Lu Changxing looked at Xia Zhiyue, and after a brief moment of contemplation, he said, "Let's do this. I can send you to a good friend's place to stay for now. Wait until Qingyun sect's Immortal sect examination begins. They'll come over and take your brother to the Qingyun sect to participate. If you need anything during this time, you can also send a message to me. As for serving as a slave or maid, there's no need. If you insist on it, I could take you as my concubine," Lu Changxing said. Xia Zhiyue, standing before him, was beautiful with a spiritual root and no complex family background to cause trouble. For him to take her as a concubine was naturally no issue. Xia Long had mentioned too that he could take his daughter as a concubine. But Xia Zhiyue still had a brother. If he took Xia Zhiyue away, he couldn't possibly neglect Xia Zhaoyang. Judging by Xia Zhaoyang's current behavior, his character was acceptable and not troublesome. But bringing Xia Zhaoyang back to Qingzhou Mountain, Lu Changxing felt it was not good, not convenient. Thus, Lu Changxing thought to send the siblings to Rui Prefecture first and ask Hong Yi to look after them, and to observe their characters. If their characters proved to be fine, he could take Zhiyue as his concubine later on. Moreover, from Xia Long's last words, his son had an excellent spiritual root, almost certain to be accepted into the immortal sects. If Xia Zhaoyang entered the immortal sects in the future, he himself would have another connection. After all, he long preferred a secluded life, which inevitably led to scarcity of information. Having a younger brother-in-law in the sects could provide more sources of information on major affairs. "Thank you, senior." Upon hearing this, Xia Zhiyue immediately bowed to Lu Changxing with grateful joy on her face. She also pulled Xia Zhaoyang along to bow deeply to Lu Changxing. The little lady also wishes to simply handle father's funeral and arrange for him to be buried next to mother. At that moment, Xia Zhiyue pressed her lips together and continued to speak. "It's no trouble, I can stay here for a few days, and you can handle whatever you need," Lu Changxing nodded and said. "Thank you, Uncle Lu." Xia Zhiyue once again bowed to Lu Changxing. Her address changed from young noble to senior and now to uncle. Lu Changxing didn't mind this much. He waved his hand and had Xia Zhiyue arrange a room for him. The secular world's spiritual energy is really too sparse. Without a spirit-gathering array or elixir medicines like spirit stones, cultivation is simply too slow. After attempting meditation, Lu Changxing slightly shook his head and took out 2 spirit stones. In the blink of an eye, 7 days passed. During these days, Xia Zhiyue and her brother started to take care of their father's funeral and such. Lu Changxing, having nothing better to do, also lent a hand. After all, the siblings had a tough time by themselves. Everything went smoothly. After the simple proceedings were done, Xia Zhiyue expressed her intention to follow Lu Changsheng's prior arrangements. Rest well today, and well set out riding tomorrow, Lu Changsheng said. That night. While meditating, Lu Changsheng opened his eyes as he heard some noise. It was the sound of light footsteps. He sensed a little and knew the person was Xia Zhiyue. It seems this girl is still worried, huh? Lu Changsheng inwardly guessed her purpose for coming. But he also admired her decisiveness. Uncle Lu, have you rested? A moment later, Xia Ziyu's soft and clear voice came from outside the door. What is it? Lu Changsheng said. Uncle Lu, Zhiyue has something she wishes to discuss with you. In the howling night wind, Xia Zhiyue, standing outside, summoned her courage, her hands clutched at her skirt, and spoke with a blushing face. Lu Changsheng initially wanted to say, discuss it tomorrow. But considering the hardships of the young girl, she must have struggled a lot internally before mustering the courage to come here. It would be too hurtful and could undermine her initiative if he responded so abruptly. I am indeed someone with a soft heart, Lu Changsheng sighed softly and said, the door isn't locked. With a creak, the door opened. There stood Xia Zhiyue, with her delicate features and slight figure dressed in simple morning attire, stepping into the room. Uncle Lu. Upon entering the room and closing the door, Xia Zhiyue called out softly. Her voice was shy but pure and attractive. Yue, what is it that you wish to speak about? Bathed in moonlight within the dimly lit room, Lu Changsheng stood up, gazing at Xia Ziyu's delicate figure and said with a gentle chuckle. Xia Zhiyue, clutching the corners of her clothes, suddenly looked up, her face flushed as she rushed into Lu Changsheng's embrace. Clinging tightly to Lu Changsheng's waist, pressing herself softly against his chest, she revealed a certain matter with breath as sweet as orchids. Faced with such actions and words, Lu Changsheng no longer played the gentleman. There was no help for it, it had come to this, what else could he do? And besides, this probably was what his friend Xia Long had hoped for in his dying moments. During the conversation, Lu Changsheng informed Hong Yi about the siblings and asked him to look after them. Hong Yi readily agreed, assuring Lu Changsheng that all would be well. At the same time, Lu Changsheng also mentioned that next year he would start sending his children to the secular world. He asked Hong Yi to help arrange for a big estate, as well as martial masters, tutors, protectors, and servants. Please rest assured, Brother Lu, I can take care of these trivial matters. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi was overjoyed. Thanks to the talisman business with Lu Changsheng, his status within the Rui Marquis mansion had risen continuously. Now, the position of the crown prince was almost within his reach. Now that Lu Changsheng was willing to settle his secular children at the Rui Marquis mansion, it showed that the tie between him and Lu Changsheng was thoroughly secure. Naturally, he was extremely happy and willing. Don't trouble yourself, Hong brother. Oh, there's one more thing I'd like to ask for your help with. Lu Changsheng then remembered Chu Zhenchen's matter. He asked Hong Yi to investigate the force behind the old man who had killed Chu Zhenchen's family, the cultivator. Chu Zhenchen's matter was something Lu Changsheng felt he now had the ability to handle. Naturally, he wanted to solve the revenge for Chu Zhenchen. After all, she had given birth to 3 children for him, so it was the least he could do. No problem, this matter is not difficult for me. I'll handle it and will send someone to inform you immediately when there's news. Hong Yi replied confidently. Thank you, Brother Hong. I didn't bring any gifts this trip, so please accept these 3 talismans. Lu Changsheng took out 3 superior-grade talismans and handed them to Hong Yi. These matters were naturally not worth the price of 3 superior-grade talismans. However, when it came to reciprocation in relationships, he never let others feel shortchanged. Especially after dealing with Hong Yi so many times, he knew him to be a trustworthy person. So, giving a bit extra was a small price to pay for a good relationship. Brother Lu, you are being too generous. I gladly accept your kind gesture. Hong Yi accepted without any false modesty. He understood that this benefit exchange was conducive to strengthening their relationship. However, when he took the 3 talismans in his hand, he immediately felt something was amiss. After a few glances, he was somewhat surprised and looked at Lu Changxing incredulously. Brother Lu, what are these talismans? They don't look like middle-grade ones. Could they possibly be? That's right, they are superior-grade talismans, the Golden Light Barrier Talisman, capable of blocking a strike from an energy refinement late stage. I was fortunate enough to become a superior-grade talisman master not long ago and made a few for self-defense. Lu Changxing explained. Beyond interpersonal transactions, Lu Changxing felt the need to subtly reveal some of his own strength and value. Only by doing so could the interaction between the two remain stable and long-lasting. Superior Grade Talisman, Golden Light Barrier Talisman. Brother Lu has advanced to a Superior Grade Talisman Master. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi was stunned and entirely amazed. His mind was filled with shock, looking at Lu Changxing in disbelief. Initially, he had nurtured a good relationship with Lu Changxing because he had seen Lu Changxing's extraordinary talent in the talisman path. He had the potential to become a superior grade talisman master. He wanted to establish a relationship early on with a superior grade talisman master. It had only been 5 years, and Lu Changxing had advanced from a lower grade talisman master to a superior grade talisman master. Such a pace was nothing short of astounding. Chapter 193, Father's Friend. _4 At this moment, Hong Yi felt immensely fortunate for the decision he had made back then. Fortunate that he made a 3-year agreement, inviting Lu Changxing, and that he had maintained their relationship, building a good rapport. It was simply the most correct decision he had ever made in his life. Just sheer luck, I've only just begun trying, and it's very difficult to succeed, said Lu Changxing with a smile as he waved his hand dismissively. But Hong Yi was still so shocked that he was at a loss for words. Finally swallowing hard, he spoke with deep emotion. Brother Lu's talent on the talisman path is truly exceptional. In the future, you might even become a second-grade talisman master. I never thought I, Hong Yi, could befriend a second-grade talisman master. What a great fortune across 3 lifetimes. But this talisman is too precious, Brother Lu, you should take it back, Hong Yi said reluctantly. A single superior grade talisman would cost at least 30 spirit stones. These 3 talismans represented a huge sum for him, too precious indeed. There's no reason to take back something once given, Brother Hong, just keep it. In the future, when I send my children to the secular world, I will need to rely on Brother Hong's attention to them. Lu Changxing said. To him, the cost price of 3 superior grade talismans was merely about 10 spirit stones. Not so precious after all. All right then, I shall not refuse such generous offer, Hong Yi said, cupping his hands together in gratitude. Then he added solemnly, Brother Lu, rest assured, in the future, your nephews and nieces in the secular world will be under my watchful eye, Hong Yi. They won't lose a single hair, or else you can hold me, Hong Yi, to account. Now that Lu Changxing had revealed his status as a superior grade talisman master, once Lu Changxing placed his children in the Rui Marquis mansion, it would show that their relationship was rock solid. By then, his father, the Rui Marquis, could not ignore the significance of Lu Changxing, the superior grade talisman master. He would think to befriend Lu Changxing and build a good relationship with the superior grade talisman master. Brother Hong, you're too flattering. I only hope that these children can live peacefully and joyfully, without too many other considerations, said Lu Changxing, shaking his head with a smile as he looked at Hong Yi. Soon after, the two chatted and reminisced. Late at night. Afterwards. Jiyue, I will be leaving in a couple of days. If there's anything, you can just send me a message, Lu Changxing said to Xia Zizhu. He hadn't been in any rush to take Xia Zizhu back to Qingzhou Mountain. It was still his original thought. Let her take care of her younger brother in the secular world, waiting for the Immortal sects to recruit disciples. As for having children, he hadn't been in a rush either. He planned to go back first to inquire and understand her constitution, whether it was the spirit-nurturing physique he thought of. Emichim. Xia Zizhu leaned against him lazily, responding faintly. 7 days later. Qingzhou Mountain. The spirit-nurturing physique can greatly increase the chance that the offspring it bears will have a spiritual root, but each childbirth will cause substantial harm to the mother's vital energy. This physique can also forcibly consume one's own cultivation origin source to nurture the fetus, enhancing the child's spiritual root potential. Lu Changxing read from a book that detailed descriptions of the spirit-nurturing physique. Zhiyue said her mother died shortly after giving birth to Xia Zhaoyang. Having a spirit-nurturing physique means possessing a spiritual root, being a cultivator. Cultivators rarely experience difficult labors or deaths during childbirth. Could it be that Xia Zhaoyang is the child her mother sacrificed her own cultivation origin source to bear? Is this the reason why Xia Long dotes on and values this son 100 times more? Lu Changxing murmured to himself, speculating. If that's the case, it seems that having children shouldn't be taken lightly. Xia Zizhu is still too physically weak now, her cultivation level too low. If she were to have more children, it could pose serious problems. Lu Changxing exhaled softly. Chapter 194, Trouble is Brewing, Heart Demon. _1 A month later. On this day, the family head Lu Yuanding came to look for Lu Changxing. He listed a talisman inventory and brought a batch of talisman-making materials. He hoped that Lu Changxing would dedicate more time in the following period to drawing talismans according to the list. Rest assured, family head. In the time to come, I will spend more time on drawing talismans. Lu Changxing glanced at the list and nodded in agreement. He also knew that the friction between the Qin family and the Lu family had become increasingly severe. It was almost as if they were preparing for war. In such a situation, the Lu family was nearly in a state of preparing for battle. They needed to stockpile more elixir medicines, talismans, and magic artifacts for the upcoming confrontation. And at this time, as a talisman master of the Lu family, he also had the duty to contribute and support the family supplies. All right, you will be busy during this period. Lu Yuanding patted Lu Changxing on the shoulder and spoke in a warm voice. After saying a few words briefly, he then left without lingering. Apparently, the situation of the Lu family was so pressing that the family head himself was very busy. After Lu Yuanding left, Lu Miaoyun came to ask what the family head had come for this time. Lu Changxing did not conceal the truth and told her straightforwardly. I heard from Grandma that not long ago, there was a minor dispute at the Spirit Stone mine jointly mined by our family and the Qin family. 3 days ago, the Great Elder took many juniors to oversee the Spirit Stone mine. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoyun spoke. Is it that serious? Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised. He knew there had been constant friction between the Lu family and the Qin family. But he hadn't expected it to escalate to this extent. Now they had reached the point where disputes erupted, and the Great Elder had to go and oversee the situation directly. Then Lu Changxing asked with some confusion, wasn't that Spirit Stone mine halted by the intervention of the Qingyun sect, which made a judgment to allow the Qin family and the Lu family to mine it together? How could the Qin family dare to make a move under these circumstances? Lu Changxing knew about the Spirit Stone mine matter from more than a decade ago. At that time, the Lu family and the Qin family had fought over the mine, resulting in many casualties. It was precisely because of this that Lu Yuanding went to the Qingyun sect to recruit a son-in-law to replenish the Lu family with fresh blood. I've asked Grandma about this question too. Grandma said that the Qin family is just starting trouble in secret, finding excuses to come cause trouble, and haven't fully ignited the conflict. In this case, the Qingyun sect would not intervene or care. Lu Miaoyun said with some indignation. I see. Lu Changxing nodded slightly. Indeed, the Qin family dares to do this because they know it won't provoke the Qingyun sect. Or rather, as long as the Qingyun sect's 40% share of profits remains unaffected, the Qingyun sect would not bother itself with the grievances and disputes between the Qin family and the Lu family. After all, no matter what happens between the Qin family and the Lu family, or even if other forces intervene, it still wouldn't affect the interests of the Qingyun sect. Lu Chongqing instantly understood the crux of the issue. In such matters, it would be difficult to rely on the Qingyun sect as the arbitrator. After all, the cultivation world at the end of the day is a place where the strong prey upon the weak. Although a certain level of reputation and face might be considered, it wouldn't go that far. The reason for the escalation between the Qin family and the Lu family might also be related to the Purple Shadow secret realm. Not long ago, Lu Yuanshan returned from the Purple Shadow secret realm, which surely caused the Qin family to be wary. Now they are making a move against the Lu family to test our attitude and to distract us. Otherwise, if a new foundation establishment great cultivator emerges from the Lu family, it will be the Qin family who'll be restless. Lu Chongqing thought to himself, tentatively guessing why the matter had escalated so quickly. If so, the grudge between the Qin family and the Lu family will likely escalate with the frictions and lead to an outbreak. One even fiercer than the battle between the Lu family and the Qin family 10 years ago. Lu Chongqing thought to himself. The grudge between the Qin family and the Lu family, which started 10 years ago, showed no signs of reconciliation. Over the years, there had been no indications of any truce. Just like previously, when he was accompanying Lu Yuanding back to Qingzhou Mountain, they had encountered an assassination by the Qin family. Originally, I thought that with the Lu family ancestor around, there would be peace for at least the next 2 to 3 years, but the turmoil has come so fast. The fact that the Great Elder has personally led people there indicates the Lu family's tough stance in retaliation. Is it because the Lu family had gains in the Purple Shadow secret realm and feels confident? Or is it because they are just putting on a show of strength while being weak inside? Lu Chongqing pondered. He had been thinking about sending Lu Pingan and a group of children to the secular world next year. With the situation escalating so quickly now, he felt that it was necessary to do it sooner. But at the moment, he couldn't rest assured to take a group of children to the secular world either. Who knew if the Qin family would, just like before, send people to lie in wait on certain routes outside Qingzhou Mountain. There's no rush for the time being, let's just observe for now. As long as the Lu family ancestor is not on his deathbed, it's unlikely that the Qin family would blatantly tear their facade and start a war. Moreover, with the formation guarding Qingzhou Mountain and the Foundation establishment ancestor presiding, even 2 or 3 great cultivators at Foundation establishment level would not be able to breach it. Lu Chongqing was not too anxious or thrown off balance. The situation had just begun and had not reached a point where it would affect him. In the following time, Lu Chongqing also spent more time making talismans each day, contributing talismans to the family. These contributed talismans, of course, were not given for free. The Lu family would calculate contribution rewards. Considering the materials provided by the Lu family for talisman making, the price was about half the original cost. It was a decent deal. After all, the initial investment by the Lu family in resources to cultivate him was intended for future returns. Before he knew it, more than 3 months had passed. The dispute between the Lu family and the Qin family had not affected Lu Chongqing. Or rather, just as Lu Chongqing predicted, the dispute was merely a probe. It was unable to extend its impact to Qingzhou Mountain or affect the Lu family. Chapter 195, Trouble is Brewing, Heart Demon. During these days, Lu Chongqing stayed at home, living a simple and quiet life. He spent his days cultivating, making talismans, and accompanying his wives and children. Of course, in the vital matter of childbearing, Lu Chongqing had not fallen behind either. He had reached a total of 73 children. This was after Lu Chongqing started practicing eugenics. Otherwise, the number would have increased by at least another 10. One day, in the practice room, clang clang clang, Lu Chongqing held in his hand a piece of cracked and dim red gold essence. His bones constantly emitted the clanging sounds of gold and iron, like soldiers. It was as if numerous blacksmiths were wielding hammers within his body, forging divine weapons with his flesh and bones, sparks flying everywhere without end. He did not know how much time had passed. Crack. Lu Changxing slowly opened his eyes, exhaled a breath of foul air, and crushed the dim, cracked piece of red gold essence in his hand to dust. An invisible pressure was released, causing the dust on the ground to disperse. 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art, the second level, has finally been achieved. Lu Changxing stood up, stretched his muscles and bones, which made a pop and crackle sound like frying beans. Then he looked at his palms. The skin was still white and delicate. But beneath that smooth, mirror-like whiteness, there was an added sense of indestructible thickness. It's still the breakthroughs in body refinement that bring the most fulfilling sensation. Lu Changxing felt the tremendous power in his body, clenched his fists, and felt as if he could shatter anything with a single punch. However, he knew this was only an illusion resulting from the recent breakthrough and the enhancement of his physical body. The second level of the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art only made one's body comparable to a middle-grade magic artifact. Nurtured by the Black Dragon magical bead, my treasure bone technique has also reached a minor accomplishment. Lu Changxing closed his eyes for introspection. He could see his bones, now clear as crystal. There were tadpole-like runes on them, faintly visible, shining splendidly, like an exquisite creation of the heavens. But now the treasure bones are only at a minor accomplishment. At best, they can only briefly harness part of the Black Dragon magical bead's power, comparable to a talisman treasure. Moreover, once activated, it also deals significant damage to myself. So, unless it's absolutely necessary, it's better not to use it and to continue nurturing it. Lu Changxing looked at the treasure bones in his chest and murmured to himself. This treasure bone technique was one of his trump cards. Once nurtured to the extreme, it would be a decade spent honing a single bone, which upon release, breaks stones and startles the heavens. After casting a cleansing technique to tidy up the practice room, Lu Changxing left the room. He went to the courtyard to accompany his wives and children. During the time he spent with his wives and children, he had also prepared them in advance for venturing into the secular world. In this regard, the little ones like Lu Pingan were quite receptive. One reason was that Lu Changxing, upon realizing that most of his children lacked spiritual roots, subtly talked about this matter. On the other hand, it was also thanks to the teachings and atmosphere of the Lu family. 3 days later, while chatting with Lu Miaoyun, Lu Changxing learned some news. The conflict over the spirit mines between the Lu and Qin families had subsided, thanks to the Lu family's firm stance and strong counteroffensive, which had deterred the Qin family. The matter was considered temporarily settled. But Lu Changxing remained firm in his speculation that what the Qin family had done was merely a probe. Such incidents were sure to recur. Given that, there's no time to lose. While things have temporarily calmed down, there's no need to postpone sending Pingan and the others to the secular world any longer. I'm going to send the first group of children to the secular world now, otherwise, who knows what might happen next. After pondering for a moment, Lu Changxing decided to send the first group of children to the secular world right away. Otherwise, he feared new troubles could arise. I should also inform Fei Yu about this matter. Lu Changxing thought. After telling his wives, he went out to find Li Feiyu. He had discussed matters concerning their departure with Li Feiyu previously. Having Li Feiyu teach his children martial arts was also to foster closeness and familiarity between Li Feiyu and his children. So when the children went to the secular world, Li Feiyu could be there to look after them. Soon, Lu Changxing arrived at a plaza in Qingzhou Villa. He saw Li Feiyu teaching Lu Pingan and a few other youngsters, as well as his own 7 children, some basic martial arts. Dad. Daddy. Uncle Lu. The group of kids called out when they saw Lu Changxing approaching. I need to speak with your Uncle Li about something. You keep practicing, do well. Seeing a few children pause in their movements, Lu Changxing immediately said. Although he doted on his children, he wasn't overindulgent. Also, The martial arts that Li Feiyu was teaching them were basic and weren't too strenuous. It was more about building endurance and willpower. He felt it was necessary. Changsheng, what brings you over this time? Li Feiyu smiled and asked Lu Changsheng. There's something I want to discuss with you. Lu Changsheng nodded. He sat down with Li Feiyu under a tree on the side and began, I've decided to send Pingon and the others to the secular world now. So soon? Has something happened? Li Feiyu was surprised and immediately sensed that something must have happened. Before this, Lu Changsheng had discussed the matter with him, but it was something that was expected to happen within the next year or two. You're aware of that spirit stone mine issue with the Lu family a while back, aren't you? Lu Changsheng began. I've heard something about it, but I don't know the details. Did something happen? Li Feiyu shook his head. He was truly out of the loop regarding family affairs in the Lu family and had no source of information. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.